And we're back! Welcome to the second episode chronicling the cancellations of Cartoon Network. In the last video we looked at all the CN shows that bit the dust between the 90s and 2000s, link in the description if you haven't watched it yet, and this time we'll be bringing things up to speed by covering all the shows which ended between January 2010 and present day. And just for clarity's sake, this video and the last one are covering any original or debuting show on Cartoon Network that ended for any reason. That way, I get to talk about more cartoons, and it covers shows that lie in that grey area where there's not a lot of information on why it ended, or it's unclear whose decision that ultimately was. So let's not waste any time. Same rules apply for what's being counted as a CN show as the last video, so to go over those quickly, the show has to have had at least some new episodes debut on Cartoon Network, so no shows that only aired as reruns. This list is only going to take into account shows from Cartoon Network USA, so if a series only aired on an international version but not the American channel, it won't count. However, international shows that debuted in the US on Cartoon Network do count, with the exception of anime. It's a whole different ballgame if we start including anime, so let's just not. This list is only counting shows from the main Cartoon Network block, so no affiliate stations like Boomerang or alternative blocks like Adult Swim. And finally, a new rule for something which didn't even need to be considered in the last video: streaming services. Some cartoons debuted simultaneously on CN and a streaming service like Max or Toonami's on-demand service. These can be trickier to classify because technically they're debuting on TV on Cartoon Network even if they are available somewhere else slightly earlier. And some of them only aired a few episodes on Cartoon Network to promote their availability on other services, so were never really intended for CN to begin with. For these series, I've tried to take them case by case and include them where I feel they should count as CN shows and add as much context as I can. So that's it for the rules. Same as the last video, chapters will break down the shows year by year, and there'll be annotations to point out if they're CN originals, syndicated shows, acquisitions, international series, live action, etc, etc. And again, apologies for any mistakes in advance. I've tried to do my best with the info online, but some of these shows are really obscure, and there's hardly any information at all for some of them, so yeah, sorry for any mistakes. And with that, let's just get into it. Join me as we explore the second episode of the history of Cartoon Network cancellations. The Secret Saturdays. Final episode premiere date, 30th of January 2010.
Coming up next, it's The Secret Saturdays on Cartoon Network.
The first Cartoon Network show to end in the 2010s, The Secret Saturdays was an action series following Doc, Drew, and Zack Saturday, a family of adventuring cryptozoologists working in the shadows to keep the knowledge of creatures from myth and legend from getting out into the public. The series was greenlit by Jim Samples, the previous CN president who was fired after the Aqua Teen Hunger Force bomb scare, in his rush to capitalise on the success that they'd had with Ben 10 and promote more action shows. Despite the Ben 10 comparisons, however, The Secret Saturdays was still able to carve out a distinct identity for itself, largely helped by its 1960s Hanna-Barbera styled visuals and theming. After 36 episodes over 2 seasons, The Secret Saturdays was cancelled as the new management for the network were more interested in making room for CN Reel's live action content than continuing shows from the previous regime. The Secret Saturdays would appear 3 years after their cancellation in a crossover episode with Ben 10 Omniverse. Ben 10 Alien Force. Final episode premiere date, 26th of March 2010.
I'm Ben Tennyson, and I'm here to save the world.
Easy as pie.
From a series greenlit after Ben 10's success to the follow-up to the show itself, the second series of the Ben 10 franchise, Ben 10 Alien Force, was a sequel set 5 years after the original 2005 series, which had kicked off Cartoon Network's most valuable IP. Picking up the Omnitrix once more, and now teenage Ben enlists the help of his cousin Gwen and former enemy Kevin to help save Grandpa Max. With an older cast, the series was able to tackle more mature subject matter and carry a darker tone, which proved divisive among some fans, but a hit with the ratings. Receiving 46 episodes between 2008 and 2010, Ben 10 Alien Force showed no signs of the money train slowing down and was continued as Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Chaotic. Final episode premiere date, 8th of May 2010. I'll be honest, until researching these shows, I thought that this show and Gormiti were the same thing, but no, it turns out Chaotic is a show on its own that's production lives up to its own name. Based on a Danish online trading card game, Chaotic originally aired new episodes on 4Kids until midway through its second season when new episodes began to premiere on Cartoon Network. The series was about kids who could enter the world of the game. Chaotic's first season was animated in Canada, with seasons 2 and 3 being animated in South Korea, leading to a noticeable change in art style as the series shifted from Flash to traditional animation. Only the Korean animated series ever aired on Cartoon Network. A series of lawsuits between 4Kids and the original Danish owners resulted in the entire franchise essentially being prematurely shelved, resulting in the show's third season ending before reaching its conclusion. Despite this, Chaotic's owner Brian Gannon remains hopeful in seeing the series one day getting a proper ending. All currently existing episodes of Chaotic are available to watch for free on YouTube.
Wedgies. Final episode premiere date 28th of May 2010. Wedgies was a series of mixed media short films that aired between 2007 and 2010. Some of the standout shorts featured included The Talented Mr. Bixby, about a temp worker who finds himself way over his head at every job he finds. The Bremen Avenue Experience, a heavily stylized series about a garage band of teenage anthropomorphic animals. And Angry Pig, which was just a guy in a pig costume attacking people for eating pork and pork byproducts. Literally the same joke every episode. And for me, that's peak TV right there. Wedgies is most significant for marking the first appearance of Flapjack on Cartoon Network in a 2007 short, which has since become lost media. Wedgies stopped airing in 2010, just as Cartoon Network began to stop airing short interstitial content.
Totally Spies. Final episode premiere date 1st of June 2010.
Totally Spies. High school was never like this.
Some people in the previous video were pointing out that I'd forgotten Totally Spies, and the joke's on... well, it's on me, actually, because I did forget. But now that I've actually looked into it, thanks to a technicality, I can legitimately include it in this episode. So, Totally Spies was a French action comedy series from David Michel and Vincent Chalvin-Damascene, which ran originally from 2001 to 2008. However, and here's a technicality, the US airing of the show on Cartoon Network lagged behind the French broadcast by 2 years, so technically CN was still debuting new episodes into June 2010, and thus its placement here on the list. Though the series was French and later pulled in production from Canada for seasons 3 to 5, it was set in Beverly Hills and produced with both French and English voice tracks. The show was inspired by the movie Clueless, and the original 1970s Charlie's Angels series took visual cues from anime and manga and struck gold when the 2000 reboot of Charlie's Angels became a hit, leading to network executives suddenly becoming more interested in funding the show. Following Sam, Clover and Alex, a trio of teenage secret agents, the show balanced its humour, largely based around spy movie references and stereotypes of American teenage girls, with action-packed missions taking down villainous criminals, all under the guidance of the director, Jerry. Given the show's longevity, it's apparent that it was a success on both sides of the Atlantic, leading to its creators making a number of other shows with their signature anime-inspired style, some of which also aired on Cartoon Network. The success also led to an enduring fandom and cultural impact that exists to this day. However, as much as the show is remembered fondly by those who grew up watching it, it's also kind of infamous for being the poster child of cartoons where the writers were just blatantly inserting their fetishes wherever they could. Like, I don't know how half of this stuff got past censorship. Totally Spies technically aired its first season in the US on Fox Family, which then became ABC Family, but seasons 2 through 5 debuted on Cartoon Network, though some season 4 episodes were never broadcast. The show ended production after season 5, as the creators were now working on so many other projects and they felt they'd gotten all they could from Totally Spies, concluding with an origin story movie based around the girl's first mission. However, after a number of years, a 6th season was announced, though this season has never aired on Cartoon Network, instead premiering on Universal Kids in 2019. Another hiatus followed until season 7 was announced, finally returning to Cartoon Network with new episodes in 2025, after 15 years. Which I guess still makes Totally Spies a current Cartoon Network show. So, should it even be on this list? 16. Final episode premiere date, 21st of June, 2010.
16 premieres Monday at 4, right here on Cartoon Network.
Originally airing on Teletoon in Canada, 16's first season debuted in the US on Nickelodeon before going off air in the States. 2 years later, the show would be brought back on Cartoon Network, this time featuring episodes from all 4 seasons, but not showing them in any kind of recognisable order, and simply missing out large numbers of episodes because they covered slightly risque material that wouldn't get past US censors. In total, Cartoon Network aired 67 of the 91 episodes shown in Canada. As for the show itself, you could probably guess from the title that 16 was a show about 16-year-olds. A sort of slice-of-life comedy about a clique of mole rat friends, the series covered all the topics you'd expect, from complaining about life and parents to first experiences with romance and freedom. Cartoon Network aired the final episode in 2010, which provided a proper conclusion to the series, with one of the main characters, Nikki, moving away. As to the decision to end the show after 4 seasons, Cartoon Network's erratic airing and censorship harmed the show's popularity in the US, and Total Drama Island, produced by the same company, had established itself as the leading cartoon for 16's demographic. Despite this, 16 has garnered a dedicated cult following in the US, and saw a bizarre reunion episode in 2018 in which, despite being a Canadian show set in Canada, the characters urged viewers to vote in the 2018 US midterm elections. Pink Panther and Pals. Final episode premiere date, 4th of July 2010.
Pink Panther and Pals, only on Cartoon Network.
An adaptation of the classic 1960s series, each episode of Pink Panther and Pals featured comedic shorts of both the titular Pink Panther and the Ant and the Aardvark series from the original incarnation of the show. 26 episodes were produced for the show's first season, but only 18 aired on Cartoon Network before the series was moved to Boomerang. Suggesting that the series wasn't performing as strongly as would have been hoped, Pink Panther and Pals concluded on Boomerang without being picked up for a second season. The Amazing Spies. Final episode premiere date, 16th of July 2010.
Totally Spies and the Amazing Spies. Weekdays on Cartoon Network.
A spin-off to the popular Canadian-French action, comedy, fetish series Totally Spies, The Amazing Spies was centered around younger agents who had been inducted into WHOOP to become international spies. Even with Totally Spies creators David Michel and Vincent Chalvin-Demarcy being behind The Amazing Spies, it failed to reach the popularity of the original series in the US, and Cartoon Network only aired 36 of the 52 episodes created. As a result, the English language versions of those final 16 episodes were never shown, and were considered lost media for over a decade, until they were discovered in 2023. Stoked. Final episode premiere date, 26th of July 2010.
Thursday at 8:30 on Cartoon Network.
Continuing the streak of quickly cancelled acquired series, Stoked was a Canadian show about a group of teenage surfers looking to enjoy the summer of their lives by working at a famous surf resort, only to discover that the job isn't all it's cracked up to be. As you could probably tell from the art style, Stoked was another product of Fresh TV, the creators of 16 and Total Drama Island, and the show unfortunately shared a similar fate to the former. Cartoon Network dropped the show 22 episodes into season 1, leaving 4 episodes to be unaired. Stoked would ultimately go on to receive a second season, which aired in Canada and Australia, but not the US. Track Rats. Final episode premiere date, 30th of July 2010. Track Rats was a NASCAR-themed reality TV short series about 3 young drivers trying to prove their skills behind the wheel. There were a total of 5 episodes made, each one only around 2 minutes long, and they are all lost media, and good
nobody should preserve a NASCAR reality show made by Cartoon Network. However, on an unrelated note, 2 of the kids featured in the show went on to get married and now actually have a family of their own, and all 3 kids did eventually become professional stock car racers, so I guess something came out of it.
Chowder. Final episode premiere date, 7th of August 2010.
Premieres November 2nd at 7:30, only on Cartoon Network.
On a more successful note, Chowder was a Cartoon Network original, headed up by former SpongeBob and Billy and Mandy alumni, C.H. Greenblatt. The series was a bizarre comedy following an absent-minded apprentice chef named Chowder, training under Chef Mung Dal and constantly getting into situations beyond his control. The show stood out for its well-delivered comedy and unique visuals that involved using static textures instead of filled colours and a heavy use of mixed media. Despite critical success and a loyal fanbase, Chowder was an unfortunate victim of Stu Snyder's push for live action, as Chowder was cancelled in favour of Destroy Build Destroy, a live action series which Snyder hoped would capture the older boy demographic. It didn't. In total, Chowder had 49 episodes over 3 seasons. Reflecting on the cancellation, Greenblatt said it gave him time to formulate new ideas, and he would go on to create Harvey Beaks at Nickelodeon and be the showrunner on Jellystone for HBO Max. Metajets. Final episode premiere date, 13th of August 2010. Set in a future in which people live in floating cities, Metajets was a Canadian-South Korean action series about young competitors taking part in high-octane aeronautics races. 40 episodes were produced, all of which aired on Cartoon Network, which, compared to some of the other shows we've covered, sounds like a huge success, until you look at when exactly those episodes aired. The first 10 episodes were shown on the same day during a 4th of July marathon. Then the remaining 30 debuted at 6 AM between July and August 2010, which definitely gives the impression that Cartoon Network were trying to burn through the show as quickly and quietly as possible. The fact that Metajets ran its full course rather than being cancelled suggests that Cartoon Network were contractually obliged to air the show, with more weight being added to this theory, seeing as the exact same thing happened in Canada, with Teletoon burning through the series at 6:30 in the morning. Given that the Canadian studio behind the series was Cookie Jar, it's possible that Metajets was tied up in some sort of agreement that allowed Cartoon Network and Teletoon to broadcast Cookie Jar's other show, Johnny Test, which by 2010 had become a major hit. Essentially, this means that Metajets was a show that neither network wanted to air, but had to, so they dumped all the episodes in the early morning slot, never really giving the show a chance. The Marvellous Misadventures of Flapjack. Flapjack quickly received a dedicated fanbase due to its bizarre and sometimes dark style of comedy and The Garden Wall, respectively. Unnatural History. Final episode premiere date, 21st of September 2010.
A new series premieres Sunday, June 13th at 8, only on Cartoon Network.
Created by Warner TV, Unnatural History was a live-action teen drama and Cartoon Network's second attempt at scripted live-action after Out of Jimmy's Head bombed. The show was based around a world-trotting, Indiana Jones-esque teenager who finds himself enrolled at a normal high school, and discovers that although his adventures have left him with an incredible set of skills, he is socially unequipped to navigate high school. By all accounts, Unnatural History was a much better show than Out of Jimmy's Head, but that wasn't enough to secure it with the second season. Low viewership figures saw Unnatural History cancelled after just its first 13 episodes. League of Super Evil. Final episode premiere date, 1st of November 2010.
Of the neighbors!
Stylized as Lose, League of Super Evil was a Canadian slapstick series about a group of incompetent supervillains threatening and failing to take over their town. Internationally, the show ran for 3 seasons, but in the US, only season 1 ever aired, as it failed to gain any significant traction on Cartoon Network, and the channel simply declined to broadcast the remaining seasons. Tower Prep. Final episode premiere date, 28th of December 2010.
Wait. How are they going to get in touch with us?
Another scripted live-action series, Tower Prep was created by veteran DC writer Paul Dini about a prep school for kids with superhuman abilities. The main characters awoke to find themselves in a school with no memory of how they got there, and the series was about them planning their escape. More like Unnatural History and less like the disastrous first wave of CN Real shows, Tower Prep enjoyed a relatively warm critical reception, though the low production quality fight scenes were criticised. Regardless, the show was cancelled after its first season. Dini has hinted that the reason was due to the series attracting a mainly female audience, when the whole point of Cartoon Network's live-action experiment was to capture the older boy audience, whereas others have suggested that Cartoon Network were simply facing the reality that their live-action content had failed in the face of the immediate success of some of their new cartoons.
Various animated short series. Final episode premiere date, Various, in 2010.
We should probably clean up some of this.
Cartoon Network revived their interest in animated shorts in 2010, and then subsequently lost that interest the same year. I couldn't find enough definitive information about the air dates of some of these shows to add to the list accurately, as they're all incredibly obscure, so here they are just lumped together at the end of 2010. Hot Dog TV. A puppet series about talking hot dogs. The puppets came from the Henson Company, and some episodes were actually directed by Jim Henson's son Brian. 12 one-minute episodes were made, but the series is almost entirely lost media, with only 2 clips from 2 episodes having been preserved. Lance and Derek. These were 6 2-minute long shorts about an alien named Lance learning about human society through his interactions with his slacker roommate, Derek. Rad Roach. 6 of these 2-minute shorts were made, following an Evel Knievel inspired daredevil cockroach taking on death-defying stunts. The Swashbuckling Perils of the Adventures of the Men, and Jeremy. This was a CGI series about a Spec Ops task force of hardened agents tasked with raising a boy named Jeremy. And Teddy Blue Eyes, a limited animation series following a creepy hug-obsessed teddy bear with superimposed real eyes. If this show didn't exist, we would have to invent it for like a terrible creepypasta.
Robotomy. Final episode premiere date, 24th of January 2011.
Okay, now this is getting weird.
Say it! Say I'm sexy!
Created by Michael Buckley, Robotomy was a Cartoon Network original comedy about a pair of outcast robots attending high school on their robot homeworld. I'll be honest, I initially overlooked this series in my research because I'd always assumed it was an Adult Swim series, and it turns out that wasn't by mistake. Robotomy was co-produced by the studio behind the Venture Brothers, World Leaders Entertainment, and had Super Jail and Ballmasters creator Christy Caracas directing the series and contributing to its art style. The art style featured a muted dusky colour palette, looking more at home with Adult Swim shows, and all of this because Robotomy was part of Cartoon Network's attempt to capture the older boy demographic, but this time using animation after coming to terms with the failure of CN Real. Unfortunately for Robotomy, it would end up sharing the same fate as many CN Real series, being cancelled after only 10 episodes, making it Cartoon Network's shortest running original animated show. Symbionic Titan. Final episode premiere date, 9th of April 2011.
Transform into the mighty Symbionic Titan.
Genndy Tartakovsky's 4th Cartoon Network series, Symbionic Titan was a sci-fi action mecha drama in which an alien princess, her brooding bodyguard and their robot crash land on Earth after escaping war on their home planet, laying low in high school while protecting their new home from the dangers that have followed them. Expanding on ideas from an episode of Samurai Jack and taking elements from classic mecha anime and 80s coming-of-age movies, Symbionic Titan stood out as a show with some real quality put into it, and got its audience quickly invested in the story and relationships between its characters. However, when Cartoon Network failed to secure a toy deal for the series, Symbionic Titan's fate was sealed. The series was cancelled after its first season of 20 episodes due to its lack of merchandise. Despite this, Genndy has repeatedly reiterated his desire to return to the series if ever given the chance, even as recently as in 2023. Run It Back. Final episode premiere date, 29th of May 2011.
Run it back.
Not a whole lot to say about this one. Run It Back was a highlight show of clips from the 2010-2011 NBA season. Presumably the series was agreed and in place before CN Real was scrapped in May of 2010, and it was too late for the network to back out by that point. The show ran for 30 episodes and, predictably, did not return for the next NBA season. Hot Wheels Battle Force 5. Final episode premiere date, 16th of July 2011.
New season premieres tomorrow at 10:30, only on Cartoon Network.
Based on Mattel's toy car line, Hot Wheels Battle Force 5 was a Canadian-US CGI action series about a group of young racers transported to another dimension. The heroes had to battle evil aliens and robots with their souped-up cars, while ultimately helping their alien ally Sage restore her lost species. Battle Force 5 ran for 2 seasons and 52 episodes, and while I couldn't find a specific reason why it ended, I think it just ended because it ended. In cases like this, when a cartoon is really just an advert for a toy line and Mattel were footing the bill, 52 episodes is already a pretty significant investment to promote it. So if sales are good after 2 seasons, good job, the show worked, time to wrap it up. And if sales are bad after 2 seasons, you might want to try something else. Destroy, Build, Destroy. Final episode premiere date, 21st of September 2011.
Destroy, Build, Destroy on CN Real.
A high-octane game show originally airing as part of CN Real, Destroy, Build, Destroy saw teams of kids explode, crush and generally wreck a whole load of items, then sort through the wreckage to construct a vehicle or machine that would help them outcompete their opponents and complete the episode's challenge. Generally seen as one of Cartoon Network's more successful attempts at live action, Destroy, Build, Destroy would outlive even its original block and survive for 4 seasons and 37 episodes before being destroyed itself, as Cartoon Network began to phase out the last of their live action content. Dude, What Would Happen? Final episode premiere date, 21st of September 2011.
500 gallons of salad dressing. Dude, what would happen?
Another CN original that outlived its block, Dude, What Would Happen was a live-action series in which the host would posit outlandish hypothetical scenarios and then try to create them. Think Mythbusters, but instead of setting out with a specific thing in mind that they were either trying to prove or disprove, they were just doing things at random because they needed to spend the production budget. Dude, What Would Happen lasted for 3 seasons and 37 episodes, and like Destroy, Build, Destroy, would end once Cartoon Network decided to phase out their live-action content. The Problem Solvers. Final episode premiere date, 29th of September 2011.
New series premiere Monday night at 8:45, 7:45 Central.
Greenlit after somebody who wanted Cartoon Network to go back and make cartoons presumably found a magic monkey paw, The Problem Solvers was an unwarranted assault on my eyeballs created by Ben Jones. A series about a trio of detectives helping to solve mysteries throughout their town, The Problem Solvers is remembered as Cartoon Network's ugliest show. With its unappealing character design, garish use of colour, overcomplicated backgrounds, and blatant disregard for any composition, focus, or stylistic consistency, to the point at which simply watching the show can feel genuinely overstimulating and uncomfortable. After its first 18-episode season, Cartoon Network cancelled The Problem Solvers because just fucking look at it. And unbelievably, they'd already created an 8-episode second season by that point, which wouldn't be seen until 2 years later when the series moved to Netflix in 2013. The Superhero Squad Show. Final episode premiere date, 14th of October 2011.
Next Saturday morning at 6:30, 5:30 Central, only on Cartoon Network.
A comedic parody of Marvel superheroes to promote a new line of Hasbro action figures, the Superhero Squad Show reimagined popular Marvel heroes as miniature versions of themselves in ridiculous slapstick scenarios. The series ran for 2 seasons and 52 episodes, ending in October of 2011. Cartoon Network would lose the rights to the series after 2011, after which the show would rerun on the Hub. Batman, The Brave and the Bold. Final episode premiere date, 18th of November 2011.
You're the one who's caught Catwoman in the crooked claws of crime.
Jumping from Marvel to DC, Batman the Brave and the Bold was a light-hearted take on The Dark Knight, sporting a retro art style and witty humour. The series was based around the concept of Batman teaming up with a new companion every episode to help him on his mission, running the full gamut from A-list to obscure DC characters. The show was warmly accepted as a charming interpretation of Batman, though its more light-hearted tone didn't spare it from controversy. with one episode from season 2 being banned from Cartoon Network before even airing due to a song with lyrics containing sexual innuendos about certain DC characters. Overall, Batman the Brave and the Bold received a run of 3 seasons and 65 episodes, being cancelled in favour of a new show which would take the Caped Crusader in a darker direction. My Dad's a Pro. Final episode premiere date sometime in 2011.
My Dad's a Pro. Cartoon Network's all-new micro-reality show.
Good luck finding anything about this one. I know this series stopped airing in 2011, but whether those were new episodes or reruns, I got no idea. My Dad's a Pro was a reality show following the eldest son of professional NBA player Eddie House. Episodes were short, like really short, only 2 to 5 minutes long, and a second series featuring the son of NFL player Tony Gonzalez apparently also aired, but I found even less info on that. The series was presumably cancelled because why the shit would a reality TV show be on Cartoon Network?
Hole in the Wall. Final episode premiere date 19th of January 2012.
Premiere tonight at 7:30, 6:30 Central. Only on Cartoon Network.
Adapted from a Japanese variety show segment, Hole in the Wall on Cartoon Network was the second attempt at bringing this game show to US audiences after a short-lived version on Fox in 2008. The game's premise was simple. Contestants would stand in front of a pool of water while a wall approached them. The wall would have a hole cut out depicting a specific pose, and contestants needed to position themselves and hold that pose for long enough to pass through the hole without being knocked into the water. Running for 4 seasons and 40 episodes, it's not really a surprise that the show did pretty well, as alongside the US and original Japanese versions, the show has been adapted to over 50 countries. But by 2012, the writing was on the wall for CN Real, and this game show was eventually dropped with the rest of the live action block.
Secret Mountain Fort Awesome. Final episode premiere date 17th of February 2012.
Secret Mountain Fort Awesome. New episodes Mondays at 8:30, 7:30 Central.
You know when I said Problem Solvers was Cartoon Network's ugliest show? Well, Secret Mountain Fort Awesome gave it some close competition. Created by former Chowder and Flapjack storyboarder Peter Braungard, Secret Mountain Fort Awesome made a name for itself with a grotesque art style inspired by underground comics, and also its use of gross-out toilet humour. The series was greenlit after Braungard's pilot, Uncle Grandpa, was submitted to the Cartoon Institute and spun off into this new series. Uncle Grandpa would also feature in Secret Mountain Fort Awesome as a character, and later be spun off into his own Cartoon Network show, making Secret Mountain Fort Awesome and Uncle Grandpa spin-offs of each other in a kind of I'm my own grandpa, Uncle Grandpa kind of way. The series received mixed reviews and criticisms of its humour throughout its run, and was cancelled halfway during season 2 with 18 episodes. The remaining 8 episodes would later be made available via iTunes. Redakai, Conquer the Kairu. Final episode premiere date 18th of February 2012.
See how the experts do it in new episodes of Redakai, Conquer the Kairu.
Created by Totally Spies creators Vincent Chalvon Damasé and David Michel, whose previous shows Team Galaxy and The Amazing Spies had also aired on Cartoon Network, Redakai Conquer the Kairu was an anime-inspired action-adventure series about a young martial artist facing off against evil aliens to prevent them from acquiring the Kairu, a mysterious source of energy. Though the show proved decently popular in Europe, the series' tie-in trading card game failed to really take off in the US. Poor viewing figures saw Cartoon Network drop the series after its first season, though a second season did air in Canada and in other countries. Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Final episode premiere date 31st of March 2012.
A new episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien is coming up next.
Picking up after Ben 10 Alien Force, Ultimate Alien was the third show following the adventures of Ben Tennyson, as the franchise continued to be a major moneymaker for Cartoon Network. Set immediately after the previous series, Ultimate Alien saw Ben dealing with the public exposure of his identity while mastering the Ultimatrix, an upgraded Omnitrix that allowed him to evolve his alien forms into more powerful versions. The series ran for 52 episodes over 3 seasons, wrapping up after the story concludes with Ben giving up the Ultimatrix and his adventures continuing in Ben 10 Omniverse. Thundercats. Final episode premiere date 16th of June 2012.
Thundercats. Thundercats. New episode.
An updated reboot of the popular 1980s cartoon, Thundercats 2011 was produced by Warner Brothers and animated in Japan by Studio 4 Degrees C. With more emphasis on character arcs, a serialized storyline, and higher quality animation, the series received high praise for improving on its source material whilst also having respect for it. That being said, changes in writing staff behind the scenes led to inconsistencies in tone across early episodes. Despite the critical success, declining ratings and weak toy sales saw the series cancelled after its first 26-episode season, leaving the series on a cliffhanger, with many fans holding on to hope to this day that the series will eventually continue. At the time of its cancellation, LEGO were in talks to produce a tie-in toy line. Once they got word of Thundercats' cancellation, they reformatted their plans, and the sets would eventually be released under the original LEGO Legends of Chima brand. Hero 108. Final episode premiere date, 9th of July 2012. Loosely based on Chinese folklore, Hero 108 was an original science fantasy action series developed by Cartoon Network Europe and set in a world where animals and humans are at odds with one another, and follows a band of peacemakers attempting to reunite the warring factions. Despite a dedicated fanbase and big plans for the franchise, Cartoon Network ultimately decided to end Hero 108 to make way for new shows after 2 seasons and 52 episodes. Sidekick. Final episode premiere date 24th of September 2012.
Sidekick on Cartoon Network. I can always count on my pals.
A Canadian acquisition, Sidekick followed 12-year-old Eric, enrolled at the Academy for Aspiring Sidekicks after the disappearance of the world's greatest hero and his former mentor, Maxim Man. The series ran for 40 episodes across 2 seasons on Cartoon Network before they dropped it. Sidekick would have a 3rd season produced, which was broadcast in the US on Qubo. Not tons of info as to why Cartoon Network dropped it, but between seasons 1 and 2 it moved from 3:30pm debuts to 9am debuts, when most kids wouldn't be able to watch, suggesting that Cartoon Network were already losing faith in the series' popularity. The Garfield Show. Final episode premiere date 5th of October 2012.
Garfield Show. Weekdays at 3. Yes, even Mondays.
A French-US production, The Garfield Show was a CGI adaptation of Jim Davis's ever-popular Lazy Orange Cat. Though the show reviewed fairly poorly due to its lackluster basic format and cheap-looking 3D animation, either the ratings were good enough or the animation was cheap enough to keep the show running for 5 seasons. Not all of these seasons aired on Cartoon Network, however, with the series moving to Boomerang after season 3, which makes sense given the old school appeal of Garfield. Generator Rex. Final episode premiere date 3rd of January 2013.
A brand new series starting April 23rd at 8:30 on Cartoon Network.
Generator Rex was an action series developed by Man of Action, the same creative team behind Ben 10, and was based on a short-lived comic created by some of Man of Action's writers. Set after a catastrophic event in which all life becomes infested with nanomachines that can cause dangerous mutations, 15-year-old Rex has the ability to control his nanomachines, allowing him to generate all kinds of body modifications, as well as being able to cure people of their mutations, putting him in a unique position to save the world. The series proved decently popular, enjoying 2 crossovers with Ben 10 in 2011 and 10 years later in 2021, and the series itself ended in 2013 after concluding on its own terms. I didn't know cartoons were allowed to do that. A reboot of the series was floated in 2023, but Cartoon Network ultimately decided to pass on the idea. Level Up. Final episode premiere date 19th of February 2013.
Level Up. New episodes coming in October.
A live-action comedy series spun off from a TV movie of the same name, Level Up featured 4 teenagers dealing with the consequences of inadvertently opening a portal from the video game world. The show received a poor response from viewers, with many finding the series unfunny and just kinda cringe, undoing whatever faith unnatural history in Tower Prep had built in Cartoon Network's ability to produce scripted live-action shows. But Level Up was popular enough to receive a second, albeit reduced, season. After that, the show was canned, with 2 seasons for 35 episodes, as Cartoon Network continued to clear out the last of their live-action flops. Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Final episode premiere date, 2nd of March 2013.
See it all unfold on Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
The second Clone Wars series to air on Cartoon Network, this version of events began broadcast in 2008, and was overseen by George Lucas himself, as well as his understudy Dave Filoni. Inspired by the success and creative vision of Tartakovsky's earlier series, Lucas saw the show as a continuation and sought to retain many of the previous show's design elements. Set between Star Wars episodes 2 and 3, the series launched with a theatrically released movie, with new episodes following on Cartoon Network. Though the series often follows Anakin Skywalker and his new apprentice Ahsoka Tano, the show is primarily an anthology, exploring the Star Wars universe in the midst of war, from various sides and angles, giving a surprisingly nuanced and complex look at the wide-ranging effects of war on a galaxy far, far away. Independently produced and funded by Lucasfilm, the series was able to get away with much darker subject matter and more violent action than other Cartoon Network shows, which the network were happy to let slide as Clone Wars became one of their biggest ratings hits and drew critical acclaim during its later seasons for an increasingly complex storyline and impressive animation. Despite being a success for both parties, however, when Lucas sold Lucasfilm and Star Wars to Disney in 2013, the show was cancelled after its 5th season due to Disney, understandably, not wanting to produce content for one of their main competitors. In fact, it shows just how much the media landscape has changed, as at the time Disney saw Cartoon Network as bigger rivals to them than they did Netflix, where Disney were happy to let the unaired episodes for Season 6 be shown as The Lost Missions. The legacy of the 2008 Clone Wars series permeates pretty much everything about modern Star Wars through the ascension of Dave Filoni within Lucasfilm. The series was one of the few pieces of supplementary material to remain canon after the Disney acquisition. It received a revival season in 2020 on Disney+, had a number of spin-offs and sequels in Rebels, The Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi, and Ahsoka has since become one of Star Wars' most popular characters, appearing in live action in The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and her own series in 2023. Young Justice. Final episode premiere date, 16th of March 2013.
Take down the enemy.
A superhero action series centered around various DC sidekicks forming their own super squad, Young Justice was a Warner Bros. Collaboration which felt like a welcome combination of Teen Titans and Justice League. Headed up by Greg Weisman and Brandon Vietti, the series proved popular with fans due to its intricate long-running narratives and focus on complex character development and dynamics within the group. Though the series began with a core cast of heroes, over the course of the show it expanded to include a wide range of characters from across the DC universe. Though viewership remained strong, lower than expected toy sales unfortunately led to Mattel cutting their Young Justice toy line, kneecapping funding for the show. After 2 seasons and 46 episodes, Young Justice was cancelled, making way for new DC shows in Teen Titans Go and Beware the Batman. Fans, however, didn't give up on the series, and a fan petition in 2016 eventually led to Young Justice getting a 3rd season in 2019 on the DC Universe streaming service, 6 years after it had ended on Cartoon Network. After DC Universe was scrapped, the show was also dead, until it was revived for a 2nd time on HBO Max, with new episodes in 2021 and 2022. Following the HBO-Warner merger and the chaos inflicted by cultural terrorist David Zaslav, it does look like Young Justice might have been cancelled for a 3rd time, but given the show's track record, I wouldn't rule anything out just yet. Green Lantern the Animated Series. Final episode premiere date 16th of March 2013.
Green Lantern returns Saturday, January 5th at 10 a.m.
On the same day that Young Justice broadcast its final episode on Cartoon Network, so did another equally loved DC show, Green Lantern the Animated Series. However, unlike Young Justice, Green Lantern wouldn't find another home elsewhere. Following Green Lantern Hal Jordan, this was the first DC series to implement CG animation and was run by Bruce Timm and former episode director for Avatar The Last Airbender and Clone Wars, Giancarlo Volpe. Like Young Justice, the series proved popular with viewers and critics but was hamstrung by toy sales, except in the case of Green Lantern, it wasn't even their toys that were the issue. The failure of the 2011 Green Lantern movie starring Ryan Reynolds meant that many stores in America still had full stocks of Green Lantern toys from the film, so when asked about taking more stock from the animation, they declined, not drawing a distinction between the two. As a result, toys for the animated series never made it past prototype. With no toys there was no money, and with no money there was no show. Green Lantern was cancelled after its first 26 episode season, again like Young Justice, making way for Teen Titan Go and Beware the Batman. Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Final episode premiere date 5th of April 2013.
Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Tonight at 7:30, 6:30 Central.
The third in our cluster of cancelled Warner Brothers collaborations, Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. was the 11th iteration of the classic mystery series and the first developed for Cartoon Network. Often considered one of, if not the best incarnation of Scooby-Doo, Mystery Inc. focused on a younger version of the gang investigating phenomena around their hometown. The series paid homage to classic staples of the franchise and other Hanna-Barbera characters, while introducing new elements such as ongoing series-long storylines, evolving character relationships, and more adult humour. It was also one of the few versions of a Scooby-Doo show to feature real supernatural elements as part of its story. The series was originally planned for 2 seasons and 52 episodes, all of which aired. There was potential for Mystery Inc. to continue, as the show had performed well critically and was a big success in international markets. The showrunners had plans in place for future seasons, but Cartoon Network ultimately decided to end the show, presumably based on US viewership. Can I just say this string of cancellations in 2013 hit a lot of fans exceptionally hard. Generator Rex, Clone Wars, Young Justice, Green Lantern and Mystery Inc. were all gone within a few short months of each other, as well as Motor City and Tron Uprising on Disney. All shows that had quality animated action, more mature writing, or both. The things fans had desperately wanted to see more of from cartoons for years, and things animation fans still want to this day. Individually, each of these cancellations wouldn't have been that much of an issue, but collectively, 2013 really did feel like the death of action-oriented cartoons. Incredible Crew. Final episode premiere date 11th of April 2013.
All new series coming in January to Cartoon Network.
What wouldn't be mourned, however, was the death of live action on Cartoon Network. Like a Japanese World War II soldier surviving off dead rats in the Filipino jungle for 20 years, Incredible Crew clung on to a lost cause long after the rest of the world had moved on. Created by and starring professional dodgy prick Nick Cannon, Incredible Crew was a sketch and prank comedy featuring a regular cast of teenage comedy actors who made up the crew. The series felt strange in that it debuted long after it was accepted that live action just did not work on Cartoon Network, and predictably, it had terrible ratings and was received negatively by audiences and critics. Incredible Crew was cancelled after just 13 episodes, finally bringing an end to Stuart Snyder's awful experimentation with live action. Almost Naked Animals. Final episode premiere date 19th of June 2013.
Hanging upside down, and this fork was lodged in my... Whoa!
An acquired Canadian series from the creator of Fish Hooks, Almost Naked Animals was a wacky comedy series about shaved talking animals in their underwear running a holiday resort. The series reviewed poorly due to its animation, character design and style of humour, but ratings were good enough in the US, Canada and internationally for it to receive 3 seasons, all of which aired on Cartoon Network in the US. The series ran for 53 episodes in total, ending in 2013, without a specific reason being given why it ended, though production company 9 Story Media were picking up a lot of new projects around that time. So it's possibly a case that they just felt they'd gotten everything they were going to get from Almost Naked Animals and needed to allocate resources elsewhere. Scaredy Squirrel. Final episode premiere date 20th of June 2013.
I like this guy already.
You gonna eat that?
Based on a series of children's books, Scaredy Squirrel was a Canadian comedy series about a neurotic squirrel named Scaredy who works at a grocery store stacking items and the antics he and his co-workers get up to while on the job. Scaredy Squirrel's first 2 seasons aired on Cartoon Network before the show was dropped, with a 3rd season airing outside the US. There isn't much info as to why Cartoon Network decided to end its run of the show after 2 seasons, but it was rarely given a consistent time slot, and when it did, it was in the middle of the day, showing that Cartoon Network really didn't have that much confidence in the show to begin with. All in all, Cartoon Network broadcast 40 of Scaredy Squirrel's 52 episodes. Grudge Band. Final episode premiere date 30th of July 2013.
Weekdays at 5/4 Central starting Monday.
Only on Cartoon Network.
A Canadian co-production for Cartoon Network and Teletoon from the same studio as Total Drama Island, Grudge Band was a musical comedy series about a bunch of young teens trying to get their rock band off the ground. Despite being reasonably formulaic, the series did quickly garner a surprisingly hardcore and ardent fanbase. However, the wider viewership to support the show simply never materialised. Cartoon Network dropped Grudge Band just 13 episodes into its run before transferring the series over to Boomerang, essentially spelling out the show's demise and causing production for the remaining episodes to drag out over the next 2 years. Beware the Batman. Final episode premiere date 5th of October 2013.
Beware the Batman. New series Saturday morning.
A CGI noir series based around the Dark Knight. Following The Brave and the Bold, Beware the Batman was a darker take on the character, with more focus on his detective origins, headed up by Teen Titans showrunner Glenn Murakami and Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi creator Sam Register. The series seemed to be plagued with bad luck before it even aired, getting it into fan controversy with an overly edgy depiction of Alfred in some promotional art, rubbing fans the wrong way, and a mass shooting during a Batman movie, meaning that scenes had to be altered to tone down the gun violence. Things didn't get much better once episodes began rolling out, with Cartoon Network pulling the show from air just 4 months and 11 episodes into its run and quickly writing it off as a financial failure, then dumping the remainder of the series on Adult Swim at 2:30 in the morning. Multiple reasons have been posited as to why Beware the Batman got such a ruthless treatment, from boardroom politics between Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers, to Cartoon Network actively trying to kill off action series, to the show being sacrificed for more Teen Titans Go slots, but the most likely reason is the old issue of toy sales. Beware the Batman only had a handful of toys and never really got a fully dedicated toy line. When Mattel turned down a deal to produce toys for the series in favour of their own Batman line not tied to any animation, the writing was on the wall for Beware the Batman. And while how Cartoon Network treated the series was still disrespectful, the end result was always going to be the same. Casper's Scare School. Final episode premiere date 1st of November 2013.
Coming up next, it's Casper's Scare School on Cartoon Network.
A US-French co-production based on a 2006 movie of the same name, Casper's Scare School sees the famous friendly ghost being sent to a school for monsters where he must learn to be spooky or else be banished to the Valley of the Shadows, which sounds awfully ominous for a Casper cartoon. The show had a strange production, with the first season airing in 2009 and then taking a 3-year gap before season 2, which had a new art style and voice cast. Both seasons aired on Cartoon Network for 52 episodes in total. I couldn't find an official reason behind the cancellation, but given the production troubles between season 1 and 2, it probably wasn't worth the hassle to make any more. Or maybe season 3 is just around the corner. Who knows? Mad. Final episode premiere date 2nd of December 2013.
Oh man.
Based on the long-running American satirical magazine, Mad was a mixed media sketch comedy regularly parodying pop culture and celebrities, basically serving as a kid-friendly version of Robot Chicken. Though the sketches themselves were pretty hit and miss, the focus on parodying highly topical subjects for the time allowed the show to run for 4 seasons and a whopping 103 episodes. Though now the show probably best serves as an incredibly specific time capsule for early 2010s pop culture and terrible meme humour, as the specificity which kept the show relevant at the time has meant it is quickly dated in the years since. Again, it's hard to find any discussion around why the series ended. It wasn't reviewed particularly well, but it also does seem to have had some pretty strong ratings and was always given a generous time slot by Cartoon Network. If I had to guess at something, I'd say it was probably an executive decision to cut the show, as even though it performed decently, it was never a breakout series like Adventure Time or Regular Show, And after 4 seasons, they were probably thinking it was never going to take off in that same way. It also seems like one of those shows that a network executive could just very easily dislike, given its often lowbrow humour and its association with more adult franchises in both the magazine and the adult Mad TV sketch show. It's probably a show that could have gone on longer and had continuing success, but simply wasn't what the network wanted at the time.
The Hall of Game Awards. Final episode premiere date, 17th of February 2014.
The Hall of Game Awards, tonight at 7/6 Central.
The Hall of Game Awards were CN Real's attempts at a Kids' Choice style award show, but themed around sports. While not strictly a series, the ceremony ran every February from 2011 to 2014, hosted by the likes of Tony Hawk, Shaq and Colin Kaepernick, and honouring such achievements as Dwight Howard being that year's All-Pro Class Clown, Robert Griffin III being the gnarliest noob, or Ryan Lochte picking up that year's That's How I Roll award. Whatever the fuck any of that means. Though my standout pick has to be from the 2013 event, where Psy won an award for Gangnam Style. At this sports awards show. For some reason. By 2014, it was pretty obvious that the Hall of Game Awards was becoming a bit of an embarrassment for Cartoon Network. And with Nickelodeon launching their own Kids' Choice Sports Awards that same year, Cartoon Network decided to pull the plug on the whole thing.
Cartoon Planet. Final episode premiere date, 1st of March 2014.
It's a frackin' Zorak-like cartoon show! Cartoon Planet.
As mentioned in the previous video, this iteration of Cartoon Planet was a reboot of the original Cartoon Planet, which began in 1995, which itself was a spin-off of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. While the 90s Cartoon Planet featured Space Ghost characters hosting retro cartoons from the Turner Broadcasting Library, the 2012 reboot was part of Cartoon Network's 20th anniversary celebrations, and would centre around classic Cartoon Network shows such as Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo and Foster's, alongside more recent short-lived series like Robotomy, Problem Solvers and Almost Naked Animals. Similar to the original series, the show would be broken up with original gags and sketches from Brack and Zorak, many of which have now become lost media. The popularity of Cartoon Planet waned as the series increasingly focused on more recently cancelled shows rather than the fondly remembered cartoon classics, and the series was cancelled, again, in 2014 after 127 episodes. DreamWorks Dragons. Final episode premiere date, 5th of March 2014.
All new TV series coming this fall to Cartoon Network.
Expanding the story and series of the DreamWorks movie How to Train Your Dragon, this series picks up where the film left off, following Hiccup, Toothless and the rest of the gang as they try to integrate their new dragon neighbours into Viking society. Retaining many of the voice actors from the movie and boasting some impressive animation on a TV budget, the series proved critically and commercially successful and was praised for retaining the spirit of the movie whilst broadening its world. DreamWorks Dragons aired 2 seasons and 40 episodes before leaving Cartoon Network. In 2014, with the release of How to Train Your Dragon 2, the original scope of the series to bridge the first and second films had been completed, and thus the contract for the show was up for renewal. Netflix would ultimately secure the rights for the future seasons of the show, as they were keen to establish themselves as major players in children's entertainment at the time, with DreamWorks Animation being a key part of their plan. DreamWorks Dragons would continue for an additional 6 seasons on Netflix. On the 6th of March 2014, it was announced that, as a result of a corporate reshuffle at Turner Broadcasting, Stu Snyder would be removed from his position as the head of Cartoon Network. That July, Christina Miller would officially be unveiled as Snyder's replacement, and while the news was widely welcomed by Cartoon Network fans given Snyder's unpopularity, there was the expected uncertainty around Miller's appointment in a better the devil you know kind of way. For all Snyder's failings, he did end up leaving Cartoon Network in a pretty good position. CN Real had been a disaster, but by 2014, most of those shows were on their way to becoming lost media. Yes, he cancelled some good shows to make way for his terrible live-action projects, but when you look at the cartoons airing at the time he left, you had the likes of Adventure Time, Regular Show, Steven Universe, Gumball, Total Drama Island, and Teen Titans Go. And regardless of what you might think of any of those shows personally, they have all been commercially successful and culturally significant. And in that way that Betty Cohen, Jim Samples and Stuart Snyder had all left their mark on the network in different ways, there was a certain amount of trepidation to see how Christina Miller would do the same. The High Fructose Adventures of the Annoying Orange. Final episode premiere date 17th of March 2014.
The Annoying Orange new series premiere coming up next.
I'd love to say that killing the Annoying Orange was Christina's first decisive act of intent, but she wasn't actually in charge yet when this show was cancelled. A TV adaptation of Dane Bodegeimer's YouTube series about an obnoxious piece of fruit with superimposed facial features, the TV show diverged from the web series in some aspects, but largely retained its loud, lowbrow style of humour. Despite its awful critical reviews, the series had consistently high ratings, seamlessly translating its internet success to traditional media. The series ran for 60 episodes over 2 seasons, and it wasn't actually Cartoon Network's decision to end the show. The cancellation came about as a result of the production company being bought out and having their TV division shut down. So, had things gone differently, The Annoying Orange could have been on our screens for a lot longer. Maybe there is a god.
DC Nation Shorts. Final episode premiere date 2nd of August 2014.
Watercolor.
Easily Cartoon Network's longest running series of shorts, the DC Nation Shorts ran, unsurprisingly, alongside the other shows in the DC Nation block. In total, some 162 shorts were produced, each around 1 to 3 minutes long and covering a plethora of animation art styles, genres, and DC characters. Some of the most standout examples include the crossover minisodes with Mad, the anime-inspired Amethyst of Gemworld, the visually striking Batman of Shanghai, Super Best Friends Forever developed by Lauren Faust, Superman of Tokyo by anime studio David Production, and most significantly, the new Teen Titans shorts, which led to the greenlighting of Teen Titans Go. DC Nation shorts would end with the discontinuation of the DC Nation block itself in 2014.
The Looney Tunes Show. Final episode premiere date 31st of August 2014.
The Looney Tunes Show. New episodes Tuesdays at 8, 7 Central.
A Warner Brothers production created by the showrunners of Duck Dodgers, The Looney Tunes Show was a complete reimagining of the classic Golden Age characters, which proved to be immediately controversial. Eschewing the fast-paced slapstick daftness that Bugs, Daffy & Co. are best known for, the 2011 Looney Tunes Show was a sedate domestic sitcom where the characters dealt with the struggles of work, their love lives, and dealing with roommates. Aiming at a more adult audience, the series was incredibly polarizing, with just as many being intrigued by this new direction as absolutely hated it. Alright, if we're being honest, a lot more people absolutely hated it, but the show did have its fans who were ready to defend it. Ultimately though, it was the opinions of executives at Warner Brothers that mattered the most, and they were not fans. They gave the show 2 seasons for 52 episodes, all of which played out on Cartoon Network, before cancelling it in favour of a new Looney Tunes show that would stick truer to the original style. Over the Garden Wall. Final episode premiere date 7th of November 2014.
Over the Garden Wall. A 5-night mystery adventure.
Airing 10 episodes over 5 nights, Over the Garden Wall was Cartoon Network's first ever miniseries. Created by former Flapjack and Adventure Time storyboarder Pat McHale, the short series was about 2 brothers searching for a way back home after being trapped in a dark fantasy world of haunted forests and talking animals. Adopting a slower, creeping pace, a muted colour palette, and an art style inspired by Gilded Age Americana, tinged with horror elements, Over the Garden Wall felt different to anything else airing around this time, unfolding more like a fairy tale from a bygone era than a modern cartoon. Add on top of that the astonishing Dixie folk soundtrack by the Blasting Company and the show's equally brilliant original songs, and what you have is, in my money, arguably the best show Cartoon Network has ever made. Although it originally aired in November, the series has quickly become quintessential Halloween viewing for many fans. So if you're searching for something to watch around spooky season, give this a try if you haven't already. Anyway, fanboying finished, Over the Garden Wall ended after 10 episodes, because it's a mini-series, obviously. Ben 10 Omniverse. Final episode premiere date 14th of November 2014.
Ben 10 Omniverse. All new series this fall.
The fourth and final installment of the original Ben 10 continuity, Omniverse saw the extraterrestrial transforming teen story finally come to a close. The series saw some major changes to the formula, with series regulars Gwen and Kevin out and new alien sidekick Rook Blanco in. Omniverse also sported a new art style and a more light-hearted change in tone, more reminiscent of the original series as mandated by Cartoon Network. This was also the Ben 10 series, which featured the crossover episode with the Secret Saturdays. While fans tend to consider Omniverse as the weakest series in the original continuity, it ended up being the longest running to date, with 80 episodes spread over its 8 seasons. However, despite an impressive episode count, the popularity of the Ben 10 franchise overall was beginning to lose steam. Merchandise sales were down, with some toy lines being cancelled before even hitting the shelves. And given how poorly Cartoon Network had handled the merchandising of their other action series in 2013, they could not afford to do the same with their biggest cash cow. The network decided to wrap up not just Omniverse, but the entire Ben 10 animated continuity, re-strategize, and ultimately reboot the franchise 2 years later. Total Drama. Final episode premiere date 29th of November 2014.
Next time on Total Drama Revenge of the Island.
A Canadian comedy series satirizing reality TV contests, Total Drama was a surprise breakout hit, running for 119 episodes over 5 seasons between 2007 and 2014. Featuring a huge cast of characters swapping in and out between seasons, the series spoofs all elements of reality contest cliches, from challenges to love triangles to eliminations, and enjoyed consistently high ratings. Despite being a scripted show, fans would become genuinely invested in who was going to be evicted and who would win each season, and cast and crew members working on the series were forced to sign NDAs, preventing them from leaking the results. After ending, the series would be continued in a spin-off called Total Drama Presents a Redonkulous Race in 2016, as well as Total Drama-Rama in 2018. The Total Drama franchise in general would enjoy a resurgence in popularity during the COVID-19 lockdowns, when many new fans discovered the show on streaming services, contributing to the show's revival in 2023. Legends of Chima. Final episode premiere date 22nd of November 2014.
Legends of Chima.
Based on the LEGO playsets of the same name, which in turn were created from the repurposed ideas originally intended for the cancelled Thundercats 2011 tie-in, Legends of Chima was a fantasy adventure series set in a world of warring animal tribes. Despite LEGO's big plans for the Chima franchise, disappointing sales saw the line phased out fairly quickly, taking the TV series with it. In total, Legends of Chima aired for 3 seasons, containing 41 episodes. Johnny Test. Final episode premiere date 25th of December 2014.
New episodes of Johnny Test return to Mondays in June.
Cartoon Network's overachieving Canadian import. After debuting first on Kids WB, Johnny Test aired new episodes on Cartoon Network between 2009 and 2014. The show revolved around the hijinks 11-year-old Johnny would get up to each episode after being the guinea pig for his scientist sister's experiments. Despite being a rating success, Johnny Test became the poster child of the mediocre, cheaply animated Canadian flash cartoons that a growing number of viewers felt had become too prevalent on Cartoon Network in the years since it began walking back the live-action content. And it is true that the show was prone to a certain amount of lazy humour and animation oversights. I mean, even in this promotional image, which is one of the first image results for the show, they forgot to make the space between the dog's legs transparent. With 3 seasons and 78 episodes of Johnny Test debuting on Cartoon Network, on top of the other 3 seasons from the Kids WB era, by 2014 executives felt that the show had run its course and cancelled it. But Johnny Test would receive a reboot on Netflix in 2021. Sonic Boom. Final episode premiere date 14th of November 2015.
You can't kill me.
watch Sonic Boom!
An animated adventure to coincide with the latest video game launch of the Blue Blur, now with blue arms, this series featured Sonic and the regular gang, plus newcomer Styx, going about their life in a sleepy seaside village while coming under regular attack from their nemesis, Dr. Eggman. Focusing on a standalone episodic format, Sonic Boom leaned more towards the comedic end of the Sonic spectrum, and was genuinely funny, with a number of Sonic Boom's best comedic moments entering the wider meme ecosystem in the years since the show has ended. Unfortunately, despite the relative quality of the show, the accompanying video game Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric was a borderline unplayable glitchy mess, which garnered pitiful reviews and sales, quickly killing the Sonic Boom name. The series ran for one season of 52 episodes on Cartoon Network, with a second 52 episode airing on Boomerang. Adventure Time Stakes. Final episode premiere date 19th of November 2015.
Adventure Time 4-night special event begins Monday, November 16th at 8.
An 8-episode spin-off of Cartoon Network's incredibly successful show Adventure Time, which we've yet to cover, Stakes centered around and expanded the lore of fan-favorite character Marceline the Vampire Queen, as she relinquishes her vampirism and then has to recruit Finn and Jake to deal with the fallout, with her vampiric essence unleashing a group of ancient vampires onto the land of Oo. Greenlit following the success of Over the Garden Wall, Stakes gave Pendleton Ward and the Adventure Time crew the opportunity to delve deeper into Marceline's past and finally reveal aspects of her origin story which had been developed during the early seasons of the show but never been brought to broadcast. It also gave a number of former Adventure Time crew members a chance to revisit the series, most notably Rebecca Sugar, who voiced Marceline's mum and wrote an original song for the miniseries. Stakes was a critical and rating success, receiving high viewing figures and being praised for its expansion of Marceline's character, whilst also shaking up the formula and reinvigorating interest in Adventure Time, as the series was beginning to lose steam entering its 7th season. Long Live the Royals. Final episode premiere date 3rd of December 2015.
Okay.
Long live the Royals!
Another mini-series following Over the Garden Wall's success, Long Live the Royals came from a pilot by regular show storyboarder Sean Zellez. A comedy series about a fictional royal family preparing and celebrating a festival, each episode centered around the activities of a different member of the family. With just 4 episodes in total, Long Live the Royals is ironically the shortest running show ever produced by Cartoon Network. The miniseries aired across just 4 nights and failed to really achieve the same sort of impact enjoyed by Cartoon Network's previous miniseries, largely flying under the radar, probably not being helped by the fact that it aired so soon after Stakes. As a result, Cartoon Network has effectively swept Long Live the Royals under the rug, with it never being re-promoted or rebroadcast since its initial run. Total Drama presents The Redonkulous Race. Final episode premiere date 15th of February 2016.
Total Drama's Redonkulous Race! A new episode starts next!
A spin-off from the Total Drama franchise, Total Drama Presents The Redonkulous Race was a globe-trotting spin on the Total Drama formula, with 32 characters racing across different countries around the globe while competing in challenges. The series retained its popular satirical element, spoofing reality contest shows, specifically in this case, The Amazing Race. The Redonkulous Race ended up being the swan song to the original Total Drama run, as, despite the prolonged success of the series, executives at the time felt the original audience for Total Drama had grown out of it and no longer fit the demographic of the network. Cartoon Network would ultimately retool certain aspects of the series into a new show, Total Dramarama, in 2018, and, as mentioned previously, a spike in the franchise's popularity during lockdown would lead to its revival in 2023. New Looney Tunes. Final episode premiere date 12th of March 2016.
Don't miss new episodes of Wabbit!
Originally titled as either Wabbit or Bugs, depending on your location, New Looney Tunes was the series that the 2011 Looney Tunes show was cancelled for. Given the divisive nature of the 2011 series, New Looney Tunes was an act of course correction, restoring the characters with their classic slapstick shenanigans and totally divorcing itself from the sitcom style which had proved so polarizing. Cartoon Network would air the first 22 episodes of New Looney Tunes before moving the series to Boomerang as part of Boomerang's rebranding that saw the network now premiere original content for classic franchises. New Looney Tunes would continue releasing episodes on Boomerang up until 2020 for 156 episodes in total, in a way proving that, despite not having much in the way of cultural impact, the old Looney Tunes formula does still work if you want a long-running show. Be Cool Scooby-Doo. Final episode premiere date 12th of March 2016.
Be Cool Scooby-Doo, new series.
The 12th incarnation of the Scooby-Doo franchise, Be Cool Scooby-Doo marked a major change in direction from its predecessor, Mystery Inc. Removing the darker elements, continuity and focus on relationships, this new show aimed to alter the Scooby-Doo formula by making it a modern animated comedy. This was accompanied by the show adopting radically different character designs in line with a flat, simplistic modern art style. These changes were divisive both among traditional fans of classic Scooby-Doo and those still upset at the loss of Mystery Inc. Be Cool Scooby-Doo also had a troubled production, with Warner Brothers executives allegedly meddling in a lot of the creative decisions and giving the team little time to implement major changes. It also suffered from a lack of support from Cartoon Network, with an erratic time slot that saw large numbers of episodes being burned through quickly, followed by months without a new premiere. After the first 20 episodes of its first season, Be Cool Scooby-Doo was transferred to Boomerang following its rebranding, where it would air the remainder of Season 1 and a second season in 2018. Bunnicular. Final episode premiere date 12th of March 2016.
Otherwise known as Bunnicula, the vampire bunny.
Based on a series of children's books, Bunnicula was a Warner Brothers dark comedy about a vampire rabbit who sucks the juice out of carrots to gain superhuman abilities. The series debuted jointly on Cartoon Network and Boomerang, and only ever really played on Cartoon Network as a way of promoting the Boomerang rebrand. After 8 episodes, debuts on Cartoon Network stopped, and Bunnicula continued on Boomerang for a total of 3 seasons and 104 episodes. The Tom and Jerry Show. Final episode premiere date 12th of March 2016. A modern reboot on the classic Hanna-Barbera tunes, episodes of The Tom and Jerry Show either saw the famous cat and mouse duo getting into their usual antics, or playing out a less conventional scenario, ranging from fairy tales to detective mysteries to Tom working in a Downton Abbey parody for some reason. Like New Looney Tunes, Be Cool Scooby-Doo and Bunnicula, the 2014 Tom and Jerry Show was always destined for elsewhere, ending its run on Cartoon Network in 2016 and debuting the second half of its second season on Boomerang from September 2017 onwards, with later episodes debuting on the Cartoon Network app. Ultimately, the show ran for 5 seasons and 117 episodes, reappearing on the main Cartoon Network channel sporadically in both 2019 and 2023. Mixels. Final episode premiere date 1st of October 2016.
It's the bomb!
Promoting a new line of combining figures, Mixels was the latest in a line of collaborations between Cartoon Network and LEGO. Unlike previous LEGO series, Mixels was 2D animated and more focused on comedy than action or adventure. The series was based around tribal creatures who, like the toys, combined to create new forms. Poor uptake in both the series and the toy line, as well as the continued success of the Ninjago line, led LEGO to ultimately cancel the production of new Mixel toys in 2016, bringing an end to the show with it. 25 episodes of the show were produced in total, with Season 2 only containing 4 episodes before its sudden cancellation. Super Noobs. Final episode premiere date 9th of December 2016.
All new series weekdays at 4:30 starting Monday.
A US-Canadian co-production from Scott Fellows, the creator of Johnny Test, Super Noobs was a sci-fi action comedy about middle schoolers being granted superpowers to fight off an evil alien invasion, but who often end up finding themselves in trouble after misusing their gifts. The series was received poorly by viewers, with Super Noobs being accused of falling into the same pitfalls as many Canadian cartoons of this era, namely being lazily written and having cheap production quality. Cartoon Network dropped the series 46 episodes into its 52-episode season. Super Noobs continued airing in the US on Hulu for the remainder of Season 1, and for a second season beginning in 2018. Peanuts. Final episode premiere date 24th of December 2016.
Until you've beaten the Masked Marvel. Oh, good grief.
Debuting 2 years after its original run in France, Peanuts was a TV adaptation of the famous comic strip, and was in a similar situation to Bunnicula, where the show had a short debut on Cartoon Network to promote the full series on Boomerang. Peanuts ran for 5 episodes on Cartoon Network, and 1 full season of 37 episodes on Boomerang. Regular show. Final episode premiere date 16th of January 2017.
Show. It's anything but. New series premieres Monday, September 6th at 8:15.
It's no understatement to say that Regular Show was one of the most successful Cartoon Network shows, not just of its era, but in the entire history of the channel. A flagship series during the 2010s, not only was Regular Show incredibly popular with the network's younger demographic, but also, alongside its sister show Adventure Time, enjoyed significant crossover success with adults, reviving interest from older viewers back into Cartoon Network, something that Cartoon Network shows hadn't really achieved since that golden age of the late 90s and early 2000s. A surreal comedy with stoner humour elements, Regular Show was greenlit following a Cartoon Institute pilot from Flapjack creative director J.G. Quintel. The show was centred around co-workers, slackers and best friends Mordecai and Rigby, working dead-end jobs as park groundskeepers, and deals with their run-ins with the other park staff, their romantic lives, and the occasional galaxy-ending threat. Episodes generally followed a very strict formula in which a seemingly mundane issue introduced early in the episode would unexpectedly snowball into an extravagant otherworldly action scene at the end. The juxtaposition between the show's ordinary and outlandish elements was accentuated by the low-key naturalistic approach to voice acting, which helped the series feel more like an adult animated comedy at times. Well, that and the sexual innuendos that sometimes got the show in trouble. As the series went on, it began to focus more on the romantic involvements of the characters, particularly Mordecai, and there was also this new character called Thomas. Approaching Regular Show's 8th season, Cartoon Network were looking for ways to wrap the series up and move on to new material. Creator J.G. Quintel was inclined to agree, not wanting the series to run on for too long and become stale. With the network now on board, Quintel and the crew used Season 8, now with the show set in space, as an opportunity to cap off the series in a way that would satisfy fans, ending the show after 261 episodes and a movie. Update, we're getting more Regular Show, in some form or other. There's very few confirmed details at this stage, but showrunner J.G. Quintel and Cartoon Network have confirmed that they're working on some sort of revival. Whether that's a 9th season, or a spin-off, or even something aimed at an older audience, is anyone's guess at this stage, but more Regular Show, especially with what sounds like many of the original crew and cast back on board, sounds like a good thing, whatever form it takes. Adventure Time Islands. Final episode premiere date 2nd of February 2017.
The brand new miniseries, Adventure Time Islands.
The second miniseries to spin off from Adventure Time, following the success of Stakes and its handling of Marceline's character, Cartoon Network gave the green light to Islands, an 8-episode series which promised to reveal information on 2 of the show's most central mysteries. What happened to main character Finn's family, and where are the other humans on Ooo? The series follows Finn, Jake, Susan and Bimo boarding a mysterious human vessel and traversing a number of islands in order to discover the secrets of the lost human race. Whilst not as successful as Stakes in terms of viewership, Islands received high praise from critics and fans in terms of how it handled unveiling some of the show's most deeply held secrets, and for encapsulating Adventure Time's key strengths of blending bizarre comedy with mystery and emotional storytelling. My Night and Me. Final episode premiere date 14th of February 2017.
My Night and Me! New series coming in January.
A medieval comedy series produced in France and Belgium, My Night and Me followed a young street-smart squire, his rebellious tomboy princess best friend, and his well-meaning but dim-witted knight father on their adventures through the Dark Ages. Though the show ran for 52 episodes in Europe, Cartoon Network pulled the plug after only showing 33 due to low ratings, airing the remainder of the series on Boomerang. Adventure Time Elements. Final episode premiere date 27th of April 2017. The third and final Adventure Time miniseries, Elements picked up where Islands left off, with Finn and his companions returning to the mainland only to find it devastated by extreme elemental phenomena caused by the misdeeds of an opportunistic ice elemental. This time, Finn and Jake are joined by their old nemesis the Ice King, his fiancée Betty, and Lumpy Space Princess as they collect magical gemstones from Oo's various kingdoms to restore balance. Focusing more on a by-the-numbers adventure rather than delving deeper into the backstories of the characters or lore of the world like Stakes and Islands did, Elements was enjoyed by Adventure Time purists who preferred the more irreverent tone of the early series, but performed worse with critics and general audiences who saw Elements as a step down from the previous miniseries. Clarence's Stormy Sleepover. Final episode premiere date 5th of June 2017.
Don't miss the Clarence Stormy Sleepover special event.
A spin-off to the comedy series Clarence, Clarence's Stormy Sleepover might not actually be a show depending on your definition. As you might have guessed during this era, following the success of Over the Garden Wall and Stakes, Cartoon Network were keen on promoting new miniseries. As a result, Clarence was granted this 6-episode miniseries. However, while Cartoon Network promoted Stormy Sleepover as a mini-show in its own right, other sources just say it was part of Clarence's 3rd season, not really distinguishing it in any way, and cynically possibly seeing the whole thing as a way for Cartoon Network to just burn through some Clarence episodes faster than normal. Regardless, as the title suggests, these 6 episodes are set on a night where Clarence is throwing a sleepover party, only for a storm, a power cut, and eventually a flood to interrupt the festivities. The series did okay ratings wise, slightly higher than average for Clarence's 3rd season, but nothing spectacular. And this would be Cartoon Network's last attempt at a miniseries for a number of years. Uncle Grandpa. Final episode premiere date 30th of June 2017.
Uncle Grandpa, new series coming in September.
Beginning life as a Cartoon Institute pilot, Uncle Grandpa was the second Cartoon Network series from Peter Braungard. The original pilot ultimately led to the greenlighting of Secret Mountain Fort Awesome, in which the character Uncle Grandpa would appear, thus making Uncle Grandpa a spin-off of that show. A bizarre comedy, the series follows the titular Uncle Grandpa, a comedically infantile but powerfully magical shape-shifting man who is simultaneously the uncle and grandpa of everyone in the world, alongside his RV mates Gus, Pizza Steve, and Giant Realistic Flying Tiger on their mission to visit children and help them with their problems, with episodes also being accompanied by unrelated shorts, often featuring different art styles, mediums, and guest directors. The show's brand of loud, nonsensical humour was initially seen as obnoxious by many before its debut, and while a lot of those people wouldn't give the show a chance because of that, Uncle Grandpa did find a dedicated audience who found the show charming. Uncle Grandpa seems to have gotten caught in that cycle of losing viewership gradually during its 2nd season, which led to it being put in a worse time slot, which led to it losing more viewers, which got it moved to an even worse time slot, until Cartoon Network decided to cancel it altogether and make room for new shows. There was also some production controversy, with Cartoon Network announcing that Uncle Grandpa would run for 5 seasons, only to then tell staff afterwards that those new seasons would only be half as long as expected, and that they were all getting laid off early. Dick move. In total, Uncle Grandpa would run for 153 episodes across 5 seasons, plus a special crossover episode with Steven Universe. Nexo Nights. Final episode premiere date 1st of September 2017.
It's in the battle manual. Don't miss the new series, Lego Nexo Nights.
A sci-fi medieval mashup series set in a futuristic kingdom inspired by Camelot, Nexo Nights was another Cartoon Network series promoting a new range from Lego. Like Legends of Chima before it, Nexo Nights was developed with the intention of replicating the continued success of the Ninjago line. And also like Legends of Chima before it, Nexo Nights sales fell below expectations and the line was cancelled fairly quickly, ending any funding for the show. Nexo Nights ran for 4 seasons with 40 episodes in total. Transformers Robots in Disguise. Final episode premiere date 11th of November 2017.
Transformers Robots in Disguise.
A new iteration of the enduring Hasbro franchise, Transformers Robots in Disguise was a follow-up to the animated Transformers Prime series, which had previously ran on the Hub, retaining a number of characters and voice actors from that show. Starring Bumblebee as the main character as he travels to Earth to round up escaped Decepticon criminals. Despite being given an early morning slot on Cartoon Network, the series enjoyed a relatively long run of 3 seasons and 71 episodes, eventually being cancelled in favour of a new Transformers series, Transformers Cyberverse. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Final episode premiere date, 3rd of December 2017.
Inventions! Gotta have it! Cartoon Network!
Based on Sony's popular animated movie franchise of the same name, itself based on a 1978 children's book, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a prequel to the first film, following the escapades of the main character Flint Lockwood during his high school years. Debuting on Cartoon Network, the series performed poorly in the ratings and was moved to Boomerang's on-demand service after only 27 of its 52-episode first season. A second 52-episode season was produced and aired on CBS All Access. Justice League Action. Final episode premiere date, 3rd of June 2018.
Don't miss the Justice League Action 1-hour special event.
A Warner Bros. DC show, Justice League Action was centered primarily around the adventures of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman on their mission to defend Earth. Unlike the previous Justice League shows, Action took a more light-hearted approach to storytelling, focusing less on narrative arcs and mature themes, and more on standalone stories with comedic moments. Justice League Action lasted only 1 season with 52 episodes due to declining ratings throughout its run, and the 2017 Justice League movie flopping badly at the box office, dragging the Justice League name down with it. Clarence. Final episode premiere date, 24th of June 2018.
Laughter News presents Clarence, a brand new show.
A low-key comedy series from Adventure Time storyboarder Skylar Page, Clarence starred an enthusiastic yet goofy 10-year-old boy and the interactions he had in his daily life at home, school, and hanging out with his best friends. The series was notable for taking an almost slice-of-life approach to its subject matter, focusing on relatable mundane experiences not often showcased in Western animation. Despite being relatively well received, the show found itself at the centre of a controversy when creator Skylar Page was fired from Cartoon Network after sexually assaulting a co-worker. Page wouldn't work in the animation industry again, but his show continued under writer Spencer Rothbell. Clarence was also noted as the first American children's cartoon from a major network to feature explicitly LGBT characters, starting initially with a gay couple in a single scene, then later revealing Clarence's friend Jeff as being raised by a lesbian couple. The show had decent viewing figures, but they naturally began to drop off over the show's run, and Clarence ended after its 3rd season, which included the aforementioned Stormy Sleepover miniseries, for 130 episodes, with Cartoon Network disappointingly deciding to burn the series off with inconsistent time slots towards the end of its run. Adventure Time. Final episode premiere date, 3rd of September 2018.
A new cartoon coming in April to Cartoon Network.
Alongside regular show, Adventure Time was one of the runaway success stories for Cartoon Network during the 2010s. Beginning life as an animated short for Nickelodeon, which went viral online, Adventure Time combined aspects of fantasy, science fiction, and surrealism to create a sandbox-like world for the comedic adventures of Finn and Jake. Created by former Flapjack storyboarder Pendleton Ward, while the series started as a loose bunch of standalone adventures inspired by whimsical tabletop RPGs, over the course of its run, Adventure Time grew increasingly dark in its tone as it delved into the backstories of the characters and their world. Allusions to dementia, abuse, abandonment, and nuclear apocalypse underpinning what was, on the surface, a very silly, colourful, childlike series, provided the perfect juxtaposition to draw in a curious audience of teens and adults, giving the series an unexpected and unprecedented level of mainstream focus for a Cartoon Network show. Instrumental to all of this was the laissez-faire philosophy Ward had towards his own creation, allowing storyboarders to approach the world of Ooo as their own sandbox and write episodes with whatever tone or new lore they saw fit. This led to certain writers making a name for themselves for using their episodes to expand the world building and emotional depth of the series, most notably Rebecca Sugar, whose episodes focusing on Finn's romantic interests and the tragic relationship between Marceline and the Ice King saw Sugar become a fan favourite among the writers, which in part helped to secure their own show in Steven Universe. This approach did lead to inconsistencies between episodes, however. With each writer pursuing their own interests within the world of Ooo, storylines could go months without being revisited, and the show would wildly fluctuate in how seriously it wanted to be taken. Despite this, the show remained popular with both younger and older fans, both in terms of viewership and merchandising. As we've seen previously, the show also had a successful run of miniseries spin-offs, but after 8 years on the air, audience numbers were starting to drop off. In truth, discussion on how to end the series had been rumbling in the background for some time. Pendleton Ward had expressed his desire to end the show a few years earlier and stepped down as showrunner in 2014, though he was still involved in production. Cartoon Network ultimately decided to end the show after its 10th season, giving the crew enough notice to give the story a proper conclusion after amassing 283 episodes. The series has since continued in the form of Distant Lands, a HBO Max miniseries in 2020, and Adventure Time with Fiona and Cake, another Max spin-off based around the gender-bent versions of the main characters. Update. On top of the miniseries and HBO Max spin-offs, Cartoon Network seems very keen to cash in on the cultural capital of Adventure Time, with 3 new projects in the works. Adventure Time Hey Yo Bimo is the franchise's first preschool show and centres around the sentient games console from the main series, settling into a new neighbourhood with new characters. The show will be headed up by Ashlyn Anstey, who worked on the Distant Lands spin-off, and Adam Muto, who was Adventure Time showrunner between seasons 5 and 10. Adventure Time Side Quests brings back main characters Finn and Jake in a prequel series focusing on their adventures before the main show. Developed by former Adventure Time supervising director Nate Cash, Side Quests sounds like it's aiming to be a back-to-basics take on Adventure Time, with younger versions of the main characters in more irreverent episodic exploits rather than the slow burn character dramas that dominated the later seasons. And finally, an Adventure Time movie has been confirmed to be in the works. No details as of yet as when we can expect to see it, but Adam Muto, Rebecca Sugar and Pat McHale have all been confirmed to be involved. Steven Universe. Final episode premiere date 21st of January 2019.
Into cats!
Steven Universe.
As mentioned previously, Steven Universe was created by former Adventure Time alumni Rebecca Sugar. At the time, this made Steven Universe the first Cartoon Network series to be helmed entirely by a woman, though some male-female co-productions had existed previously, and in the years since, Sugar has come out as non-binary, retroactively making this the first CN series created by an NB. The series itself was a magical space fantasy about a boy inheriting magical powers from his kind of dead alien mother and learning to use his powers to help his mum's former lesbian intergalactic terrorist cell, who are all rocks. It's hard to describe the show in so few words because, like Sugar's episodes of Adventure Time, there's a lot going on. On the one hand, the show is this spacefaring epic taking inspiration from magical girl anime, and on the other, it's this quaint slice of life comfort show about a goofy kid trying to help out his sleepy seaside town. And when the two meet, it tends to result in that deeper exploration of the characters' relationships and emotions that Sugar is best known for, earning the show significant praise from critics and audiences, despite Cartoon Network's horrible release schedule for the show, with clusters of new episodes dropping in Steven bombs, followed by radio silence for months. Steven Universe was significant in the way that it featured prominent LGBTQ themes. The entire alien gem race, who make up most of the support and antagonist characters, were entirely female, and as a result, any romantic involvement between them was inherently gay, as well as exploring themes of gender identity whenever Steven fused with a female character. Unlike other cartoons at the time, which only made a minimal nod to these themes, Steven Universe baked them into the fabric of its setting and its story, massively paving the way for other cartoons to follow. This wasn't without pushback, however, and ultimately ended up hurting the show. As a result of its focus on inclusivity, the series was banned from a number of international territories, preventing Cartoon Network from selling it to those countries and ultimately harming the profitability of the series. This led to Cartoon Network cancelling the show after its 5th season, with Sugar negotiating to extend the ending, allowing the crew a chance to wrap up the story. Steven Universe would conclude with 5 seasons and 160 episodes, ending with a TV movie special and being continued in the follow-up series, Steven Universe Future. Mighty Magiswords. Final episode premiere date 17th of May 2019.
Mighty Magiswords, new series coming soon.
A fast-paced fantasy comedy expanded from a web series, Mighty Magiswords starred a sibling duo of adventurers traveling a medieval kingdom in order to obtain as many magical swords as they can find. The show was criticised from the get-go for issues surrounding the pacing of its humour, cramming in as many jokes as possible. Audiences found the Magiswords blink and you'll miss it approach to comedy tiring and stripping the story of any substance beyond the onslaught of hit and miss gags. On top of a lack of promotion, this led to the series never really finding its audience, and the show was cancelled after its second season with 92 episodes in total. Mega Man Fully Charged. Final episode premiere date 23rd of May 2019.
Or it's game over!
A US-Canadian CGI series based on the classic Japanese video game character, Mega Man Fully Charged was developed by Man of Action, the writing collective behind Ben 10 and Generator Rex. In an era where Regular Show, Adventure Time and Steven Universe were now all gone, Fully Charged debuted on a network almost entirely dominated by Teen Titans Go, and it seems like Cartoon Network had given up on Mega Man before they'd even broadcasted, only allocating it a 6:30 AM time slot. While the reviews I found on the show weren't exactly glowing, relegating the series to such an awful time effectively killed the series before it even began, burning out its 52 episode season to tiny viewership figures before disappearing from the network forever. We Bare Bears. Final episode premiere date 27th of May 2019.
We are in the future, guys.
We Bare Bears!
A comedy series following the daily lives of Grizz, Panda and Ice Bear, three adult bear brothers, We Bare Bears enjoyed a successful run on Cartoon Network while adopting a more relaxed slice of life tone, contrary to many of the cartoons around at the time. The series was built around the bears trying their best to fit in with human society, and while the series did gradually reveal some more tragic elements from their past, it doesn't really give way to that millennial angst in the same way that other cartoons did, firmly remaining a low-stakes episodic sitcom, definitely aiming to comfort more than captivate. As the series progressed, it began to focus more on flashback episodes to when the bears were cubs, with a portion of the audience increasingly becoming interested in the younger incarnations of the characters. With viewership dropping after 4 seasons and 140 episodes, Cartoon Network decided to end the series with a TV movie as a send-off. A spin-off series, We Baby Bears, predictably following the adventures of the brothers as babies, was later announced and began airing in 2022. The Powerpuff Girls. Final episode premiere date 16th of June 2019.
The Powerpuff Girls, coming this April to Cartoon Network.
A reboot of the beloved Craig McCracken series and one of Cartoon Network's biggest hits from the late 90s and early 2000s, Powerpuff Girls 2016 had big boots to fill, and seemingly fell on its face the moment it tried to put them on. With neither McCracken nor the original voice actresses returning for this reboot, fans of the original were already highly suspicious, and when episodes began to air, they were roundly criticised for being a pale imitation of its predecessor, with worse animation, worse voice acting, and much worse writing. Controversies continued to plague the show throughout its run, with McCracken having to clarify that he'd never given the reboot his blessing despite reports stating otherwise, to episodes that offended trans people, to fan favourite female characters not appearing because the new creators felt that their mere existence was sexist, to a writer self-inserting their original character on a romantic date with a kindergartner. With all of these on top of the general backlash against the series, it's fairly impressive that Powerpuff Girls 2016 ran as long as it did. Truth be told, the ratings weren't amazing, but they were decent, at least to begin with, and it gave Cartoon Network enough reason to fund the series for 3 seasons and 119 episodes. The Amazing World of Gumball. Final episode premiere date 24th of June 2019. Created by French animator Ben Beauclerk for Cartoon Network Studios Europe, The Amazing World of Gumball was a UK-US co-produced sitcom centered around a family of anthropomorphic animals known as the Wattersons. The series was principally about Gumball Watterson and his misadventures at school and with his family. The show had an almost anarchic sense of chaos about it, accentuated by its discordant art style, or lack thereof, which included traditional animation, CGI, stop motion, puppetry, and live action. This mixed media approach to animation garnered the series significant acclaim from fans and critics, and was what the show became best known for, as well as its equally broad approach to humour covering slapstick, parody, fourth wall breaks, dark comedy, and internet humour, with meta-humor narratives in particular becoming a significant feature of the show, including characters acutely aware of their own fictional nature. Whilst not immediately exploding into mainstream success like Adventure Time or regular show, Gumball premiered to impressive viewing figures and only dropped off towards the end of its run, gradually building up that audience of both younger and older fans that remains strong to this day, and becoming one of the most respected cartoons from this era of Cartoon Network, racking up 6 seasons and 240 episodes during its run. Unfortunately, the series hasn't had much luck since its final episode, with a TV movie and a spin-off series both being announced and then subsequently cancelled before seeing the light of day. More recently, a 7th season of the show has been announced, but let's be honest, I'm not sure we can really trust what Warner Bros. Discovery says at this point, so I'll hold my breath until we see something more concrete. Update, since recording this segment for the video, that 7th season of Gumball was released, which shows just how long it takes me to make these videos, but whatever. Retitled to the wonderfully weird world of Gumball, the revival season contains 40 episodes, pretty much following the original format, and it didn't air on Cartoon Network but was released on Hulu. So, while this continuation might not have had the most straightforward release path, it definitely is a significant win for Gumball and all the people who make it the enduring show that it is. Scooby-Doo and Guess Who. Final episode premiere date 12th of August 2019.
Star comedian and television host Liza Koshy. What?
Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, like Bunnicula, was a series always intended for Boomerang. Moving away from Be Cool's modern cartoon style aiming to attract kids, Scooby-Doo and Guess Who was targeted at nostalgic older viewers, with the Scooby Gang sporting their retro looks and going on classic Scooby-Doo adventures, with the new gimmick of teaming up with a famous face from either the world of fiction or real life. With such guest stars as Steve Urkel, Carol Burnett and Cher, it's fair to say that the show's demographic was slightly older than the typical Cartoon Network show. Don't get me wrong, there were some more contemporary faces in there like Halsey, Liza Koshy, Gigi Hadid, and Batman works for about any age really, but generally it did skew a little bit older. Cartoon Network initially only premiered 6 episodes to promote the series firstly on Boomerang and then on HBO Max, but surprisingly then began airing all 52 episodes in 2022, which I'm not counting for the purposes of this video because they'd already been on HBO Max for over a year by that point. OK KO Let's Be Heroes. Final episode premiere date 6th of September 2019.
OK KO Let's Be Heroes. New show.
If this entire list could be one show, that show would be OK KO Let's Be Heroes. The amount of times that I could have mentioned this cartoon in relation to so many obscure series that vanished from Cartoon Network without a trace until this show brought them back is huge. Beginning life as a 2013 pilot called Lakewood Plaza Turbo, OK KO Let's Be Heroes was the creation of Ian Jones-Quartey, a former crew member on Adventure Time, Secret Mountain Fort Awesome and Steven Universe. An action-led comedy, the series stars KO, a boy training to become a hero whilst working at a hero supply store and facing off against the rival supervillain shop. The show featured a wide array of characters, from witches to robots to aliens to mythical creatures, and was notable for its many crossovers, including webcomics, classic cartoons, video games, and most pertinently to this list, the crossover nexus. Get it? CN? This special episode saw references to even the most obscure Cartoon Network shows. Yes, Steven Universe, Teen Titans Go and Ben 10 were the big ones, but there were nods to Robotomy, Mike Luanog, Time Squad, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, Sheep in the Big City, Sunday Pants, The Problem Solvers, Out of Jimmy's Head, even The Moxie Show. The first show I covered on this list back in episode 1, OK KO gave it its first recognition by Cartoon Network since 1995. There were even references to things I didn't include in this list. like Magoozy, which was a programming block with its own animated segments, Fire Breather, a 2010 movie that debuted on Cartoon Network, The Nudes, characters who featured in the network bumpers, and Irma de Jurel, a cartoon that aired exclusively on Cartoon Network Brazil. OKKO Let's Be Heroes ended after 3 seasons and 112 episodes under some particularly strange circumstances. Telecom company AT&T intended to purchase Cartoon Network's owners, Warner Media, and create a new streaming service based around Warner content, which would eventually become HBO Max. However, those plans were delayed for years due to the Department of Justice filing an antitrust lawsuit against the purchase, allegedly instigated by President Donald Trump due to his long-running feud with Warner-owned news station CNN. OKKO was initially greenlit with the intention of launching on HBO Max, but the delays caused by the lawsuit meant that the cartoon arrived long before the streaming service, and so it aired on Cartoon Network instead. While the show did decently enough on linear TV, it was always treated as something of an afterthought by Cartoon Network, rather than being given the starring role as was intended on HBO Max. On the 27th of November 2019, Christina Miller would step down as president of Cartoon Network, a position that she had held for 5 years. Although there were a number of other high-profile departures during AT&T's restructuring of Warner Media, and that certainly could have influenced her decisions, executives actually wanted her to stay on during the changes, and Miller's departure was entirely of her own choice. I think ultimately, looking back at her tenure, it's fairly easy to see why they wanted her to remain. She was a safe pair of hands. Unlike Samples or Snyder, Miller steadied the ship rather than rocking the boat. She didn't try and reinvent Cartoon Network or really leave her mark negatively or positively, she just tried to maximise the network's successes and modernise the company by adopting more digital practices. I think it says something when she was the first Cartoon Network president to leave the company without any sort of disagreement or controversy. Following Christina's departure, Vice President Michael Overlane would take interim charge, with Tom Aschheim becoming the new president in 2020. Infinity Train. Final episode premiere date 10th of January 2020.
A day in the morning.
One of Cartoon Network's most ambitious shows in recent years, Infinity Train was a dark sci-fi anthology series following characters who inexplicably found themselves trapped on an interdimensional train and were forced to confront their most deeply seated issues or risk being trapped on board for the rest of their lives. The series skewed towards a more mature audience than most Cartoon Network shows, with a comparatively heavy focus on exploring the characters' flaws and mindset, and featuring a heavy oppressive industrial tone throughout. Infinity Train began as an online pilot in 2016, immediately connecting with an enthusiastic audience who wanted to see more. Fan reaction and the success of Over the Garden Wall encouraged Cartoon Network to commission a limited series of 10 episodes in 2019, following Tulip, the character from the pilot, with a second series in 2020, this time centered around new kid Jessie and MT, or Mirror Tulip, a character who appeared briefly in season 1. After Infinity Train's second season, it was announced that the show would be moving to HBO Max. Series creator Owen Dennis has since confirmed that this was always the intention, as, much like OKKO, Infinity Train was always supposed to be a HBO Max show anyway, but got caught up in the delayed launch of the streaming platform. Following its move, Infinity Train released 2 more seasons, making the most of its new platform to get away with some shockingly dark moments that just would not have flown on Cartoon Network. HBO Max cancelled the series after its 4th season, running for 40 episodes in total. Alongside OKKO, Infinity Train was sadly one of the first shows removed from HBO Max by cultural terrorist David Zaslav as part of his alleged Hollywood money laundering scheme, and they were both among the shows most vocally supported by outraged fans at the time. Steven Universe Future. Final episode premiere date 27th of March 2020.
I need you to know who I am!
An epilogue series following up the events of both the series, Steven Universe, and the movie, Steven Universe the movie, Steven Universe Future focused on dealing with the aftermath of the main series conclusion and restoring normality while dealing with some of the unresolved stresses and traumas received by the characters of the show. I kind of feel like I'm describing the show in the most vague terms possible because the entire appeal of Steven Universe Future is predicated on you having seen the finale of Steven Universe, and I know some people watching right now might not have, and full disclosure, I never finished the show either, so I don't know the specifics of how it ended other than a lot of people really don't like the last episodes of Steven Universe. Regardless, critics gave Steven Universe Future high praise, and this epilogue concluded after 20 episodes, drawing a final curtain on the adventures of Steven and the Crystal Gems. Update. Steven Universe Future may well have drawn the final curtain on the adventures of Steven and the Crystal Gems, but not, it seems, the adventures of Lars Barriga. Yes, Rebecca Sugar and Ian Jones-Quartey have announced that they're working on a Steven Universe spin-off centered around Lars's outlaw escapades through space, exploring different eras of the Steven Universe. Though it was announced at a Cartoon Network panel and is presumably being produced by CN, it's been confirmed that the series will be an Amazon Prime Video exclusive when it airs. Transformers Cyberverse. Final episode premiere date 7th of June 2020.
Oh, I need one of those!
The third Cartoon Network series based around Hasbro's transforming robots, Transformers Cyberverse was centered around fan favourite character Bumblebee as he seeks to regain his lost memories of his previous adventures in order to learn the secrets of a grander mission. Sporting the cel-shaded look of Transformers 2015, Cyberverse ran for 3 seasons and 62 episodes on Cartoon Network before being transferred to Netflix, where the show concluded with 2 TV movies. Power Players. Final episode premiere date 14th of June 2020.
Let's go! Catch the half-hour premiere of the new show Power Players.
Created by the developer of Miraculous Ladybug and developed by the creator of Ben 10, Power Players had all the heritage to become animation's next juggernaut franchise, but if I'm being 100% honest, I'd literally never heard of it before compiling this list. Part Shazam, part Toy Story, Power Players followed 9-year-old Axel, a boy who can transform into a superpowered action figure and team up with other toys to prevent the evil Madcap and his cronies from taking over the world. Alongside the USA and France, the series pulled in production from Canada, Germany and Spain, and while the first season of 78 episodes ran internationally, Cartoon Network USA only aired 52 before pulling the plug. Unsurprisingly, there isn't a ton of info out there on why exactly it was cancelled, but a second series was apparently in the pipeline to air on Netflix but never materialised, presumably due to the show just not having the impact it was initially hoped for. Mau Mau, Heroes of Pure Heart. Final episode premiere date 17th of July 2020.
Mau Mau, Heroes of Pure Heart!
Produced by Cartoon Network and Titmouse, this series followed the titular Mau Mau, an overly serious action-seeking cat, and his teammate Badgerclops after they become trapped in the cute and cuddly Pure Heart Valley, leading Mau Mau to become the defender of the valley's helpless inhabitants while taking on Adorabat, one of the locals, as his protege. Beginning in 2014 as a pilot, the series blended comedy, action and adventure, quickly garnering an active fanbase and solid reviews, leading Cartoon Network to announce a second series just days after the conclusion of Mau Mau's first season of 40 episodes. However, during production, the show got caught up in the trash fire that was the Warner Bros. Discovery merger, entering a limbo with no word on its new episodes for over 2 years before the entire series was removed from HBO Max in 2022, finally confirming its cancellation. Unikitty. Final episode premiere date 27th of August 2020.
Frankie, I just feel very strongly about this.
Unikitty, new show!
Based on the character of the same name from the Lego movie, Unikitty follows the titular ruler of the Unikingdom on her fun and often bizarre misadventures with her brother Prince Puppycorn. Starring voice acting royalty Tara Strong and Grey Delisle, the series also featured a theme song by Japanese kawaii metal band Baby Metal. Despite proving reasonably popular, the show ended during the production of its 3rd season, due to the LEGO Group striking a new exclusivity deal with Universal Pictures, which saw them move away from working with Warner Bros. And Cartoon Network. Unikitty ran for 3 seasons and 104 episodes in total. Also, Nickelodeon had a series called Rainbow Butterfly Unicorn Kitty around the same time, which feels like it was just intentionally created to confuse Grandma into buying the wrong toys for little Samantha's birthday party. Ninjago. Final episode premiere date 25th of October 2020.
Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu.
One of LEGO's most successful brands of all time, preceding and outlasting both Legends of Chima and Nexo Knights, LEGO Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu was a ratings and commercial success which ran on Cartoon Network for just shy of an entire decade. A CGI action series, Ninjago blended a modern setting with historical East Asian aesthetics and was centered around a group of LEGO kids training under their sensei to master the art of Spinjitzu and become superpowered ninjas who can control the elements. The series proved to be an immediate ratings hit, which was also reflected in the merchandising sales, leading Ninjago to become LEGO's flagship franchise for boys, receiving video game tie-ins, entire theme park areas, and a theatrically released movie in 2017. Despite Ninjago's ratings dropping to a fraction of what they once were, toy sales were still strong enough for LEGO to keep commissioning new episodes. In fact, Ninjago didn't end on Cartoon Network due to ratings or sales. Like Unikitty, it was due to LEGO's new exclusivity deal with Universal. Ninjago ran for 13 seasons and 160 episodes on Cartoon Network before moving over to Netflix, where it aired a further 50 episodes and received a sequel series, Ninjago Dragons Rising, which continues to air to this day. Thundercats Roar. Final episode premiere date 5th of December 2020.
Don't miss Thundercats Roar!
Cartoon Network's second Thundercats series following the 2011 reboot, Thundercats Roar was a pretty blatant attempt at Teen Titans Going another action franchise. Featuring extremely exaggerated versions of the Thunderians in ridiculous comedic scenarios, Roar drew immediate comparisons and criticism from fans of both the original 1980s and 2011 versions of the show. Teen Titans Go themselves reacted in their typical irreverent fashion, mocking the situation in a crossover episode in which the Teen Titans were outraged at the reboot. Despite being a crossover, none of the writers from Thundercats Roar were invited to work on the episode, which honestly just makes the whole situation even funnier. Despite all the comparisons, Thundercats Roar enjoyed none of the success of Teen Titans Go, being cancelled after its first 52-episode season, and while no official reason has been established, it was probably in no small part due to the overwhelmingly negative backlash and some pretty poor ratings. Especially coming at a fairly tumultuous time in the network's history, given the mess of AT&T pulling out of entertainment and then spinning off Warner Media to merge with Discovery. Elliot from Earth. Final episode premiere date 9th of April 2021.
Elliot from Earth, new every morning, starting Monday.
Created by former Gumball writer Guillaume Cassuto, Elliot from Earth was a UK-US co-production produced at Cartoon Network Studios Europe. A sci-fi comedy, the show followed Elliot and his geologist mum, who are transported to an alien city on the other side of the universe, where they become acquainted with a talking dinosaur and acclimatise themselves to their new surroundings. All while searching for the mysterious rock which brought them there in the first place. Elliot from Earth had a troubled production, with series showrunner Cassuto stepping down after leaving Cartoon Network partway through the production of Season 1. In his tweet announcing this, he says he's looking forward to seeing the 20-episode first season when it's completed, but the show never even got that far, ending its run on Cartoon Network after only 16 episodes, before going on an unexplained hiatus, leaving the story on a cliffhanger. The show's fate was ultimately confirmed when it was removed from HBO Max the next year, killing off another series that barely even got a chance to begin with. Ben 10. Final episode premiere date 11th of April 2021.
But I should probably start punching things.
Brand new Ben 10!
Following the falling sales and ultimate cancellation of the original Ben 10 continuity, this reboot was Cartoon Network's attempt at revitalizing their most valuable IP for a new generation of viewers. Confusingly, the series is generally known as Ben 10 2016 because that's when it debuted in the UK, Ireland and Australia. Although, for the purposes of this video, it didn't air in America until quite a way into 2017. In contrast to the previous iterations of the show, Ben 10 2016 had a much more simplified cartoonish art style and animation, as well as being focused on more comedic elements rather than action and story. It's fair to say that fans of the original, for the most part, weren't massively pleased about this reboot. It wasn't as damning as Thundercats Roar, but there wasn't really ever any enthusiasm for a reboot that seemed to strip away so much of what made Ben 10 Ben 10 in the first place. Despite the criticisms, Cartoon Network really stuck with the show, incredibly making it the longest running Ben 10 series ever by quite some distance. This was in the face of the reboot never really having brilliant ratings. Even in its first season, it was pulling similar or worse numbers than the likes of OKKO, We Bare Bears Season 3, or Steven Universe Season 4. Which isn't great for what is supposed to be Cartoon Network's biggest franchise. Ultimately, the questions around the reboot's alienation of old fans and its failure to find a new audience came to the fore during the turbulence of the merger, when everything came under more scrutiny. Ben 10 2016 bowed out after 166 episodes over 4 seasons and a TV movie, concluding in 2021 with 3 TV specials, featuring a crossover celebrating the 10th anniversary of the original Generator Rex crossover, and another bringing back all the past versions of Ben 10. Following Ben 10 2016's cancellation, the franchise has remained dormant to this day, with no official word on any plans for a new series. The Fungies. Final episode premiere date, 3rd of September 2021.
Come and join these fun guys in the brand new show, The Fungies.
I originally had this series down because it did air on Cartoon Network and was developed by Cartoon Network Studios, but looking at it, it actually ran entirely on HBO Max first, so technically I shouldn't count it. Briefly then, it was a comedy series about mushroom people in a fantasy setting. It aired 34 of its 80 episodes on Cartoon Network, and cultural terrorist David Zaslav removed it from HBO Max in 2022 because, allegedly, tax evasion. Tig and Seek. Final episode premiere date, 15th of October 2021.
Tig and Seek.
Similar to the Fungies, Tig and Seek aired on HBO Max first, so I shouldn't count it, but it was made by Cartoon Network and originally intended for Cartoon Network, so bit of a grey area. The series was a surreal comedy with dark elements about an 8-year-old detective and his pet cat solving mysteries, and it had a pretty great voice cast with Jermaine Clement, Wanda Sykes, Sam Fulcher and Grey Delisle. Zach Hadel guest starred in 1 episode. 20 episode aired on Cartoon Network, but it had 80 in total and, just like the Fungies, got yanked from HBO Max in 2022. DC Superhero Girls. Final episode premiere date, 24th of October 2021.
Clean up this mess. Catch new episodes of DC Superhero Girls.
A DC Warner Brothers collaboration with Cartoon Network, DC Superhero Girls was an action comedy about the teenage versions of DC's leading superheroines. Starring the likes of Tara Strong, Grey Delisle and Carrie Walgren, the show was developed by Lauren Faust of My Little Pony fame, and had a number of writers who'd previously worked with Faust on MLP. The series began online as a series of shorts with a different voice cast a few months before debuting with 11-minute episodes on Cartoon Network. The show garnered a pretty tight-knit fandom fairly early on, possibly helped by Faust's involvement, though Faust herself left the show during season 1 to pursue an original series with Netflix which never came to fruition. Production on the series stopped midway during season 2 and then went quiet, with no official word on what was happening with the series until Lauren Faust herself confirmed its cancellation via Twitter. All in all, DC Superhero Girls had 78 episodes over its 2 seasons, as well as 2 crossover specials with Family Feud and Teen Titans Go. And finally ending with a crossover TV movie, also with Teen Titans Go. Apple and Onion. Final episode premiere date, 7th of December 2021.
4 all-new episodes of Apple and Onion!
Beginning as a pilot in 2016, Apple and Onion was first picked up by Cartoon Network for a 10-episode miniseries in 2018, and then again as a full series in 2019. Created by former Gumball storyboarder George Gendy, the show starred the voices of both him and Richard Ayoade as an anthropomorphic apple and onion, starting life in a big city of fast food people. The show was a surreal comedy drawing its humour from the naive worldview of the main characters as they acclimatised to the hustle and bustle of city life. The show regularly used irony, songs and meta-humour in its gags, and is often compared to a regular show for pitching its comedy somewhere between kids and adults. After the airing of its second season, creator George Gendy announced the show's end on Twitter, with his wording suggesting that the show was cancelled late into the production of season 2, as they weren't aware that these would be the final episodes when they were made. In total, including the original miniseries, the show received 76 episodes over its 2 seasons. Harry Potter, Hogwarts Tournament of Houses. Final episode premiere date, 19th of December 2021.
What the what? Yeah, that tracks.
A special quiz marking the 20th anniversary of the first Harry Potter movie, this show aired simultaneously on Cartoon Network and TBS. Fans representing their chosen Hogwarts house would pit their knowledge of the wizarding world against each other to win Harry Potter themed prizes, joined by host Helen Mirren and guest stars including Tom Felton, Matthew Lewis, Pete Davidson and Jay Leno. The show received mixed reviews and ended after 4 episodes with Hufflepuff winning the grand finale. The show didn't return, presumably because it's not the 20th anniversary of the Harry Potter movies anymore. Mush Mush and the Mushables. Final episode premiere date 23rd of December 2021.
Mush Mush and the Mushables.
The second recently featured fungal-based show, Mush Mush and the Mushables, was a French-UK-Belgian co-production. Aimed at younger children, the series aired under the new Cartoonito preschool block, which itself had been brought over from Cartoon Network UK and Ireland. The CGI show featured Mush Mush, Chep and Lilith, 3 anthropomorphic mushrooms in their community of Mushables, going on adventures in the Enchanted Forest. While the series aired 100 episodes over its 2 seasons internationally, in the US, Cartoon Network only showed the first season of 52 episodes before dropping the series. On the 11th of May 2022, Tom Ashheim left Cartoon Network after only 2 years of running it, making his tenure the shortest in Cartoon Network's history. Technically, his title wasn't President of Cartoon Network, it was President of Warner Bros. Global Kids, Young Adults and Classics, of which Cartoon Network fell under his responsibilities. And in the restructuring brought about by the ongoing Warner Discovery merger, that title would be eliminated. President of Cartoon Network would be reinstated as a position, and that president would report to Chief Content Officer Kathleen Finch. In whatever discussions went on behind boardroom doors, an agreement couldn't be reached and Ashheim was out. He would be replaced as CN president by Michael Overlane, who you might remember as the guy who created Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law, the guy who was the interim president before Ashheim, or the guy who hated Billy and Mandy so much that he fired Maxwell Atoms from Cartoon Network. Aquaman, King of Atlantis. Final episode premiere date, 14th of May 2022.
So yeah, no pressure.
Aquaman, King of Atlantis.
Aquaman, King of Atlantis was a 3-part superhero comedy miniseries from horror director James Wan, produced by Cartoon Network Studios, which is a weird sentence. Again, it technically aired on HBO Max first, before being broadcast over a single 3-hour period on Cartoon Network. The series was based around the aquatic DC superhero learning the ropes as the new King of Atlantis, whilst trying not to be overthrown by his evil brother. The series was always intended as a mini-series, so only lasted 3 episodes, and was another show wiped from existence by Warner Discovery's scummy alleged tax write-offs. Bing. Final episode premiere date, 27th of June 2022.
Oh, I like these. Don't miss Bing.
An English, Welsh and Irish co-production, Bing was a preschool series based on a book by British-American author Ted Dewan, a man who once offered to have his head shrunken down and displayed in a museum. Airing as part of the Cartoonito block, the show starred Bing Bunny, a 3-year-old rabbit, and focused on his everyday experiences and how he managed to learn from them. In Europe, the series had 105 episodes over 2 seasons, however, Cartoon Network in the US only showed the first 78 episodes, never airing the shorter second season. Victor and Valentino. Final episode premiere date, 26th of August 2022.
2 new names, Victor and Valentino.
A Cartoon Network original, this supernatural adventure series followed 2 half-brothers, the impatient and thrill-seeking Victor, and the responsible and cautious Valentino, staying at their grandma's house in Mexico and running into supernatural entities derived from Olmec, Mayan, and Aztec legend. Often described as being a Latino Gravity Falls because, yeah. The show managed to scratch that itch for viewers looking for a supernatural mystery cartoon that balanced comedy and continuity. The show's cancellation is perhaps one of the cruelest on this list, with the entire series being written off allegedly to avoid paying taxes just 1 week after the end of its 3rd season. It's frankly a disgusting way to treat the crew, the cast and the fans, especially when the show ended on a cliffhanger to be resolved in season 4, to bury the show, to remove all traces of it like it never existed just 1 week after the season finale, just so you can save some money, is an insanely disrespectful way to treat the people who invested so much time working on that show. In total, Victor and Valentino ran for 3 seasons and 119 episodes. Show creator Diego Milano has suggested that the series could continue elsewhere, but as of this point, nothing has yet materialized. Lucas the Spider. Final episode premiere date, 22nd of September 2022.
I feel fizzy, but in a good way.
A US-Canadian co-production, Lucas the Spider was a CGI preschool series based on the viral YouTube videos created by Disney animator Josh Slice. The series had a very cutesy art style and followed Lucas playing and getting up to mischief with the other small animals of the house, and proved to be pretty popular, even having a real-life species of jumping spider, Salticus lucasi, named after the character. Although 77 episodes were produced for its first season, only 74 were available in the US, with the final 3 episodes never being shown on Cartoon Network or HBO Max. The show was then removed from HBO Max, but then surprisingly returned 11 months later in August 2023 with the missing episodes available. As it stands, I'm not sure if Lucas the Spider is 100% dead, but officially there's been no word on a season 2, and more pertinent to this list, no sign of the show returning to Cartoon Network.
Lamput. Final episode premiere date, 22nd of February 2023. An Indian animated series co-produced by Cartoon Network India and Cartoon Network Asia, Lamput is a short comedy series about a shape-shifting orange slime monster on the run after escaping from the secret laboratory he was being held in. The show is notable for its lack of dialogue and strong use of visual gags. Lamput began airing on Cartoon Network USA in 2022, quickly showing 103 shorts over 3 seasons. There's no official word on the show's future in the US, but a 4th season of the show has been released in India, whereas American viewers haven't had any new episodes in over 2 years. So for now, it's making this list.
Total Drama Armor. Final episode premiere date, 15th of April 2023.
On an all-new Total Drama-Rama next Saturday morning at 9.
A crossover, spin-off, prequel of the various Total Drama series, Total Drama-Rama changed the regular reality TV satire format by making the characters toddlers for some reason. Featuring characters from a number of regular Total Drama seasons, The Redonkulous Race, and even 16, this alternate take on the Total Drama franchise was largely set in a daycare and positioned itself as a more traditional animated sitcom with cutaways, flashbacks, and visual gags, as opposed to parodying reality TV tropes like the other Total Drama series. As a result, fans and critics were generally less favourable towards Drama-Rama, feeling that it was a more generic take on the franchise and largely missed the point of why people liked Total Drama in the first place. By removing the reality TV elements, Drama-Rama largely removed the one thing that made Total Drama stand out from just being any other crude Canadian cartoon comedy. Despite this, the show was successful enough to receive 3 seasons and 152 episodes between 2018 and 2022, before concluding with a TV special in April 2023. While not officially stated, the likelihood is that Total Drama-Rama was ended in favour of the 2023 reboot of the mainline series, brought about as the franchise's burst in popularity during the pandemic.
Summer Camp Island. Final episode premiere date, 11th of August 2023.
Time preserves magic.
A Cartoon Network original, Summer Camp Island follows the adventures of Oscar and Hedgehog, 2 best friends who quickly discover the Summer Camp Island they've just been dropped off at is secretly a magical hideaway for all sorts of enchanted creatures, including witches, unicorns, and yetis. The show had a distinctly chilled slice-of-life tone mixed with comedic elements, earning it a dedicated fanbase of both young and older viewers. Summer Camp Island suffered from what you might describe as an experimental release schedule, with its initial 20 episodes all debuting over a single Saturday morning, followed by the next 20 episodes airing over the next month and a half to wrap up season 1. The show would then move to HBO Max for seasons 2 through 5, before being caught up in the purge of original content, allegedly for tax write-offs. However, because Cartoon Network produced the show for Max, and season 6 had already been finished, Summer Camp Island was moved back to Cartoon Network to air its final season. In total, the show ran for 6 seasons and 120 episodes.
Sesame Street Mecha Builders. Final episode premiere date, 24th of November 2023.
Mecha Builders! New episodes!
A preschool superhero series from the Sesame Workshop, Mecha Builders reimagined Elmo, Cookie Monster, and Abby as mech versions of themselves, with an array of gadgets to help teach younger viewers problem-solving skills. Airing as part of the Cartoonito block, Mecha Builders ran for 1 season of 26 episodes, ending as Warner Bros. Discovery took decisions that would wind down a lot of their preschool projects to save costs. And specifically relevant to this series, deciding to end their distribution deal with Sesame Street entirely. Thomas and Friends, All Engines Go. Final episode premiere date, 14th of December 2023.
Thomas and Friends, All Engines Go!
Beginning in 2021, Thomas and Friends All Engines Go was a reboot of the iconic original Railway series, which had been running continuously since 1984, launching millions of lifelong obsessions with trains along the way. Adopting a bouncy 2D animated art style, the reboot received criticisms from the Thomas fanbase for its wholesale redesigns that stripped away the look of the original show. I mean, personally, I would argue that had already happened with the move to CGI about a decade earlier. Like, look, I haven't cared about Thomas the Tank Engine since I was about 7 years old, but even so, either make it with the model railway set, or stop wasting my time. Even Britt Allcroft, who ran the original show in the 1980s, said herself in an interview that Thomas the Tank Engine had been tarnished by this new reboot, despite the fact that the new show credited her for her contributions. Regardless, none of it really matters anyway, because ultimately Warner Bros. Discovery were pivoting away from preschool entertainment anyway, in order to cut costs amidst their disastrous merger, and drop the show after its 2nd season. All Engines Go would find a new home on Netflix for seasons 3 and beyond. Jessica's Big Little World. Final episode premiere date, 31st of May, 2024.
Honey. Jessica's Big Little World.
Jessica's Big Little World was a preschool spin-off to the long-running Cartoon Network original series, Craig of the Creek. The series highlighted everyday experiences from the perspective of 6-year-old Jessica, Craig's imaginative little sister who is desperate to prove that she's not just a little kid. Despite carrying over many of the same cast and crew as Craig of the Creek, Jessica's Big Little World wouldn't find the same success, being cancelled after a single 20-episode season due to circumstances beyond the show's control. Namely, Warner Bros. Discovery making the decision to scale back their preschool productions and wind down the Cartoonito block entirely. Craig of the Creek. Final episode premiere date, 25th of January 2025.
Yeah! New show, Craig of the Creek, Mondays and Fridays.
The show from which Jessica's Big Little World span off, Craig of the Creek was a Cartoon Network original, announced alongside Apple and Onion and Summer Camp Island. Set in a fictional Maryland town, the show largely comprised of Craig and his friends Kelsey and JP playing in the wooded creek beside their hometown, where they and the other kids can explore an adventure out of sight from the adults. The series enjoyed good ratings and positive reviews, largely praised for its writing and efforts towards inclusivity and LGBTQ themes. Issues around production became apparent in the show's 5th season, with Cartoon Network unexpectedly cutting the episode count down from 40 to 20 episodes after production had already begun, and then splitting those remaining 20 episodes up over 2 10-episode seasons, much shorter than the usual 40-episode seasons the show had enjoyed before. This was all apparently the result of the fallout from the sloppy Warner Bros. Discovery merger, which resulted in budget cuts across all productions, including animation. The reduced seasons 5 and 6 served as the end to Craig of the Creek, which had produced 180 episodes over its run, as well as a prequel movie, Craig Before the Creek, which aired in 2023. Lou and the Bally Bunch. Final episode premiere date, 1st of April 2025.
Lou and the Bally Bunch.
Airing as part of the Cartoonito block, Lou and the Bally Bunch was a Canadian-Irish co-production based around a preschool for insect infants. Centred on Lou the ladybird, who is joining preschool for the first time, the show focused on her interactions with her new classmates with the intention of teaching social skills to the children watching. The series ended after its run of 26 episodes as a result of Warner Bros. Discovery moving away from preschool shows and the cancellation of the Cartoonito block. Silly Sundays. Final episode premiere date, 2nd of April 2025. A series from renowned Irish animation studio Cartoon Saloon, Silly Sundays was a Cartoonito preschool show about siblings, Sonia, Hugo and Mel, enjoying weekend adventures and antics with their family. The show aimed to teach kids the value of spending time with family members, as well as basic lessons for playing with others. Wrapping up a day after Lou and the Bally Bunch, the series ended after its run of 26 episodes as a result of Warner Bros. Discovery moving away from preschool shows and the cancellation of the Cartoonito block. Let's Go Bananas. Final episode premiere date, 3rd of April 2025.
Let's go bananas!
A Canada-UK co-production that aired in Cartoonito's preschool block, Let's Go Bananas followed 3 families of animals who lived in a treehouse. The focus of the show was introducing younger kids to the idea of non-traditional family structures, with the main character, Apple Banana, being raised by her 2 ape dads, the Tiger Zells representing mixed race families, and Mama Crocker, a single crocodile mother, raising her 2 sons. Wrapping up a day after Silly Sundays, the series ended after its run of 26 episodes as a result of, say it with me now, Warner Bros. Discovery moving away from preschool shows and the cancellation of the Cartoonito block. And that is that. We are now up to date with every show that has ever left Cartoon Network. Aside from all those shows I discounted because they weren't on my arbitrary self-imposed rules, but you get the point. While I'm less familiar with this era of Cartoon Network compared to the 90s or 2000s, I still found it really interesting to look into why these shows got cancelled. CN Real pretty much coincided with the break between the first video and this one, and it really does feel like an appropriate border. I don't want to say that Cartoon Network never recovered from CN Real or that it somehow lost its soul, because that implies that all their programming afterwards was soulless, and that's not true. Some of Cartoon Network's best shows of all time aired in the 2010s and 2020s. But researching this period of Cartoon Network's history felt different than the earlier decades. CN Real ultimately came about as a response to the pressures Cartoon Network was feeling about losing some of its audience, mainly older boys, and what it could do to claw them back, even if it meant questioning the core identity of what made Cartoon Network Cartoon Network. And I think that's why this period feels different. Whether it was shrinking audiences, the rise of online entertainment and streaming services, or the messy mergers the company went through, the outside pressures and their impact on internal politics at the network just felt so much more visible over which shows lived and died during this era. Whereas in the first video, Cartoon Network might not have always made the right decision, there was a sense that the network had confidence in itself as the leading channel for kids' entertainment. In the last nearly 2 decades, that confidence really just isn't there anymore. So you get things like the network walking back CN Real and trying to actively bury some of its content, which is always really weird but also really interesting when a company is forced into that position. Or stumbling over the launch of HBO Max and then the frankly disastrous merger with Discovery that saw the wider Warner brand go all in on streaming 1 minute and then pull out the next. And now Warner Bros. Discovery are splitting up and Netflix and Paramount are fighting over who gets to desecrate the corpse. This is a very fast moving situation, so what I'm about to say might be out of date even at the time this video comes out, but if Paramount is successful, they want the entire corporation, and they already own Nickelodeon, which would mean Nick and Cartoon Network being owned by the same company, which would be weird. And if Netflix win out, they only really want the production side of Warner Brothers plus HBO Max, and would spin off most of the linear networks independently, which could result in a situation where Cartoon Network Studios, the animation studio, is owned by Netflix, but the TV channel, Cartoon Network itself, is owned by a completely different company, which would be even weirder. And I genuinely don't know if Cartoon Network could survive in that form. Trump and the DOJ are already threatening to get involved, again, so the whole thing feels like we're at the start of what could be another very messy chapter in the history of Cartoon Network. But anyway, that is a whole different topic. I suppose this is more a question for people who grew up in this era, but what was your favourite show from this list? Which one broke your heart the most when it ended? And more broadly, what do you think about how Cartoon Network was run during this period? Let me know in the comments. Same as the last video, a big thanks goes to the folks who maintain the Cartoon Network wiki and the Cartoon Network Adult Swim archives, because this project simply would not have been possible without the information available over there. And finally, I'd like to thank you for watching this far into the video. If you've enjoyed this video and the previous one, please could you leave a like and consider subscribing if you're not already, as more interest in these videos lets me know what sort of topics to focus on and make more of. And if you're watching this video in the first week since its release, please leave a hype, as this helps promote the video to new audiences. This type of video is a new format for me, and honestly I don't think I've seen anyone do exactly this kind of thing in going chronologically through an entire network's finished shows, so if there is enough interest, there's potential for me covering other channels, you know, rather than waiting until 2030 for more Cartoon Network shows to get cancelled. But anyway, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time, and bye.